The man realizes that his daughter has decided to destroy the world. He approaches Sola and asks why she did it. The girl only replies that it is very pitiful and wonders if Lee Seo-jun has remembered that he is her father, or he decided to plunge her into eternal sleep. The main character wonders if the lady is really going to continue to stand her ground, after which someone else turns to Mr. Lee Seo-jun and tells him to stop because this lady is no longer his daughter. The man claims that the girl is now a monster, while his interlocutor claims that everything is not so at all, because Sol-A is not a monster, and she is still his daughter. The Holy Swordsman states that he will not engage in battle, after which he suggests retreating, but the protagonist begins to use his power and points his blade at his interlocutor. The Holy Swordsman wonders what he is trying to achieve, but the man asks for forgiveness and claims that he does not intend to put his daughter into eternal sleep. After all, he wants to protect her. The Holy Swordsman claims that the lady will fall into eternal sleep, and then his interlocutor replies that he will go with her. The main character knows that he was a bad father, and now he only gets in everyone's way. But still, he will not stand aside while his daughter is plunged into eternal sleep, even if he has to say goodbye to life himself. The guy swings his blade at the Holy Swordsman, and suddenly he pierces him, after which the main character falls, and at the last moment looks at his daughter, and then closes his eyes. The girl, seeing this, becomes enraged. With tears in her eyes, she uses her power, after which the final test begins, and the final boss is the witch Lee Sol-A. The man gathers his last strength and whispers an apology to his daughter. The protagonist desperately wants to start all over again. When he closes his eyes, he sees in front of him an inscription with the beginning of a special quest to change the future. It also says that the process has been launched from rebirth. The main character sees before him all the events that have happened during this time, and also how his daughter changed, after which everyone can see that the process of rebirth is complete. A little while later, the guy opens his eyes and, getting out of bed, thinks about where he is now. The main character remembers very well that he was supposed to plunge into eternal sleep, but when he turns around, then he takes his phone and says that it is now 2025. The young man is shocked to realize that he has been reborn when he looks at himself in the mirror. Then, his suspicions are confirmed, and the man is shocked and wonders if he has really returned to the past. The guy remembers some kind of notification and wonders what kind of special quest it is. Well, at that very moment, he hears someone heading down the corridor, and he also cries out whether Seo-jun is at home. The woman claims that this is Yoo Eun-hye, and the guy immediately runs to the door, after which he thinks, is it really her? When he opens the door, he sees a beautiful lady in front of him who greets him. The woman also turns to Sola and invites her to say hello to her dad. Lee Seo-jun looks at his daughter in shock, after which the girl greets her daddy with a smile on her face. A man is faced with a special quest to change the future and prevent the 5 misfortunes of Lee Sol-A. The woman claims that she knows it is hard to believe, but it really is Seo-jun's child. The main character, in shock, claims that several years have passed, and she suddenly decided to visit him with the news that he had a child. He also wonders if the woman will now blackmail him. And when you and I don't even have time to answer, the main character asks if she has proof that he is her father. And also, did she think that this child could be from another man? Lee Seo-jun says that when she proves that he is her biological father, then let him come. The main character understands that this happened in a past life, and that on that day he behaved terribly and also acted like a cretin. That quest talked about the 5 misfortunes of Sol-A, and the man wonders if this child will really destroy the whole world. The little girl has experienced too much grief, but he doesn't know what kind of misfortunes will befall her along the way. If you think about it, he doesn't know anything about her at all, because they don't have any happy memories together. Not only did he not acknowledge her as his daughter, but he also drove Eun-hye into eternal sleep. But she was the baby's only support. After she fell into eternal sleep, he had to take care of the girl himself. But the feeling of guilt still did not leave him. He plunged into debt and began to spend all his time at work, and his daughter was left completely alone. The girl became a witch precisely because of him. Therefore, the man understands that he has no right to be called a father. Now the main character is clenching his fists, and Eun-hye is seeing this. She claims that she knows it's hard to believe, but she really is his daughter. At the same moment, the man replies that he believes, which leaves the lady confused. She asks what he is talking about, and the main character turns to his daughter. The baby also turns to her dad, while her mother is still perplexed. The man tells them to move on because these two are probably very tired. He extends his hand to his daughter, and calling her princess, asks her to allow him to accompany her. The girl immediately smiles and thanks him. A little while later, Yoon Hae sits at the table and realizes that her boyfriend has changed. After all, this slob suddenly put things in order, and now he's sitting and playing with Sola Dae. As if nothing had happened, the woman says that yesterday he acted like a little child, but now he has changed, to which her interlocutor replies that all people change. He also wonders why she didn't tell him about this earlier, to which the lady replies that they separated on bad terms, and that she already knew then that Sol A was pregnant. She initially planned to raise her alone, but she ran into problems, so she decided to turn to Lee Seo-jun. The man asks what happened, and his interlocutor replies that an accident occurred and they lost their home. The woman claims that she will not shift responsibility onto him. After all, she made the decision to give birth herself, and the guy asks what she wants then. His interlocutor asks him to let them live with him for a while, because she cannot allow the child to spend the night in a motel. If he doesn't have an extra room, then a storage room will do, and the main character immediately replies that it's no problem. His interlocutor asks him what he is talking about, and the guy replies that his apartment is not that spacious, but he thinks that if he puts things in order, a place will be found. He also asks where their things are, to which she replies that they are outside. The woman understands that this is a little strange, because Lee Seo-jun is one of those people with whom it is easy to come to an agreement. He used to act like a child and cause trouble. To be honest, she was ready to listen to any insults. But now the man turns to Yoon Hyo, and he claims that it might sound strange coming from him, but he would like to talk about them, and is interested in whether she will marry him. The woman is shocked and cannot believe what she heard, and wonders what happened to this guy during this time. The lady realizes that this is all truly shocking, believed from the first try that Sol A was his daughter, and offered to come in, after which he even proposed. The man understands that if he doesn't do it now, he will regret it later. He must take responsibility for his actions, and now he can make things right. The emptiness that came after falling into eternal sleep made him realize how dear Yoon Hee's was to him. But now the woman is seriously turning to Lee Seo-jun. She claims that she came because she needs help, and not because of long-standing feelings. Her interlocutor replies that she is right, because they did not part on very good terms, so she probably no longer feels anything for him. People claim that he just started talking about marriage, and she got a little nervous. She is of course grateful to Lee Seo-jun for allowing them to stay with him, but suggests they talk about it later. The guy agrees in response, and thinks that he understood that she would answer that way. However, it is not too late to try to regain her trust. A little while later, the guy claims that money is needed for the child's development. It won't be easy for her to combine work and raising a girl, so he asks if the girl has thought about what she will do. His interlocutor replies that she has already thought of something and she will join the squad. The protagonist understands that this is one of Sol A's misfortunes. The woman continues and claims that she is going to join the ranks of the players, so she asks to take care of Sol A. The guy turns to look at the two of them in shock, and he wonders if this isn't too drastic a decision. 25 years ago, 10 years before current events, the world suddenly collapsed, and it was a real natural disaster. Monsters emerging from spatial rifts. They began to destroy the world and exterminate humanity. But people did not give up and began to use magical power, emitted by spatial rifts, and direct it towards the development of special skills. People who were able to defeat the most powerful monsters began to be called hunters. Now, the woman tells how she went to the office and handed over the contract that was given to her in the detachment. The main character asks if she has already signed him up for something, and replies that she hasn't yet, but she thinks that she will sign, because they have many advantages. The woman also asks what is bothering him, to which her interlocutor replies that such agreements usually contain many traps, and the squads take advantage of this. Thanks to this, they are always in the black, so it is better not to sign any contracts. The woman asks what he is talking about, but understands that if she does not sign the contract, she will not be able to work off her debts and move into a new apartment. Her interlocutor says that if she wants, she can sign. It will be great if everything works out and no problems arise. But what if she notices something strange? Then let her turn to him. Now the lady is walking down the street and realizes that this guy has changed. When we parted, he behaved very childishly, A little while ago, the little girl asked if she and her mommy would go to bed, to which the man replied that mommy and daddy needed to talk and that she should go to sleep. The man also wished his daughter sweet dreams and good night. The lady watching this understood that no matter what he was the girl's father. A little while later, the little girl looks at the ice cream. The man asks what kind of ice cream the little girl wants, and she replies that it's chocolate, after which he orders ice cream called Alien Mother and realizes that he knows which squad invited Yoon-hye to his place, and he knows what schemes they are currently operating under. They lure you in with bonuses and privileges, and then saddle you with debts. In his past life, he himself fell into this trap and was forced to pay off debts until the very day he fell into eternal sleep. Yoon-hye found herself in the same situation for the rest of her life. She was oppressed by the squad and fell into eternal sleep without ever revealing her talent. Eun-hye's eternal sleep is probably one of Sol-ah's misfortunes. Now the man notices that the baby is scared, after which he wonders if something is wrong, and the girl immediately asks her dad if her mom is really from another planet, after which the man is surprised, and the saleswoman starts laughing. A little while later, they are already heading down the street, says with a smile on her face that the ice creams have such funny names, and her father replies that this is exactly it, after which the little girl says that she was given such a big bottle. The man realizes that the saleswoman called the girl cutie and gave her the biggest ice cream cone. Sol-ae thanked her with a smile on her face. The man understands that Sol-ae is just like Yoon-hye because she is just as beautiful and sweet, after which the main character shoves ice cream into her father's face. The man asks what happened and whether the ice cream is really bad, to which the girl replies that it's not like that at all, because it's very tasty and she wants to share it with her daddy. The protagonist realizes that Sol-ae had never called him dad before. He spent all his time away from home, so they hardly spoke. He left her alone with her thoughts, and left the baby all alone when she needed him so much. The first time she called him dad was under terrible circumstances. He only found out today that the girl likes ice cream, and now the man realizes how little time he devoted to her. The main character understands that he wants not only to protect the little girl from misfortunes, and leave as many happy memories as possible. At the same moment, they hear a siren, and the man realizes that it is a warning about the occurrence of a sudden rift. Typically, the location of faults is determined before they occur, and the hunters are informed in advance, but this siren warns of the appearance of a sudden rift. The probability of such a fault occurring is very low and has never happened before. The little girl turns to her father, and he replies that everything is fine because he is nearby. On the way home, he remembered the butterfly effect. In some places, the flapping of a butterfly's wing can start a storm. Eun-hye never trusted Sol-ae to anyone to another, and now she left it to him, and a sudden rift arose. Its reality has undergone changes. Therefore, the man understands that he changed the future, and this influenced the present. But when he moves further, a rift appears in front of him, and the guy understands that he did nothing that could have caused the rift to appear. At the same moment, the Cretan bull emerges from the rift. People immediately run away, and the man realizes that in a past life, he would have easily found a way out of this situation. But now he is an ordinary person, and now he can only run. The girl watching all this screams to her dad that the monster is already behind her, after which he tries to strike, but the main character jumps back. He also asks his daughter if she is okay, to which the girl replies that she is, after which the man turns to his daughter and tells her to listen to him carefully and also to hide in the gap between the two buildings, and she didn't come out until he returned. The man wondered if this monster was really targeting him. He sees that there are still people near the monster, but it is looking at him. The guy understands that the monster has chosen him and is now approaching. He also understands that now he would really need some kind of weapon. Then she sees a broom. The little girl watches all this and worries about her father, after which she sees a piece of the broom fly off and screams to her dad. The guy jumps over the monster with a stick in his hands, after which he lands and realizes that he survived thanks to magical power. But she also has a limit, so the guy says that there is no choice because he will have to make a spear out of this broom. It's too late to run because the siren has just sounded, so help won't arrive for at least 5 minutes. You just need to wait a little bit and the girl will be safe. So it seems like 5 minutes is not that much, but he could very well fall into eternal sleep during this time. However, he must protect Soy, even if I have to sacrifice everything and my body will be torn to pieces. In his past life, he was too weak to become a hunter and began to lag behind others. Increasingly desperate in their attempts to find a way to survive, he studied all the books about monsters she now understands. Weak point is its eye, so it must hit it. The guy strikes and realizes that he will not allow Sol Ah to live through this grief again. He throws a broomstick and realizes that the body of an ordinary person is not capable of storing a sufficient amount of magical power. That's why he doesn't think he succeeded. But when the guy looks at the result, who thinks he really got hit, after which the monster screams in pain? And the main character notices the ice magic, but when the monster frees his leg, the main character then realizes that the monster is going berserk and the building is about to collapse, after which he completely understands that the baby is now in danger. And when he sees that the building is collapsing, and also the expression on the face of his daughter, who screams at her mother, then he immediately runs up to her and covers her with his body. When the baby opens her eyes, she sees her father in front of her, covered in red liquid, and he asks if she is hurt. The girl only remains silent in response to this, after which the man says that this is excellent, but without finishing his sentence, he falls to the floor unconscious. While the little girl with tears in her eyes turns to her father, he understands that he needs to start, because he must save his daughter. At the same moment, other people come running, and one of them cries out that the appearance of the Cretan bull has caused a stampede. One of them screams that there are survivors there, so they need to be helped. The protagonist, seeing the mark on the uniform, understands that he thinks he can trust them to save his daughter. A little while later, Yunhee bursts into Lee Seo-jun's room. The girl immediately runs up to her mother, and Ida asks if the girl is okay. The baby replies that yes, but when you want to say something else. Then, Lee Seo-jun asks if she has arrived. The woman looks at the main character, and he claims that Sol A was injured, so she shouldn't worry. The baby tells her mom that daddy was trying to protect her. But before she can finish, she sees tears on her mother's face. Lee Seo-jun is shocked by this and cries out, wondering if he really went too far. And then she even says that she knows that he shouldn't get up, and it's just a joke, because she and Sol A decided to play a prank. The baby tells her father that her mother is crying, because and he asks if she is really crying. The woman just looks at the main character in rage, after which she screams that yes, and she cries. A little while later, they are already sitting on the street, and Yunhee thanks Lee Seo-jun for saving Sol Ah. The man replies that it's not worth it, since he's her father, and is asking how the baby is. The woman replies that she fell asleep, and the nurse said she'd keep an eye on her, so she thinks there's nothing to worry about. Her interlocutor claims that the little girl was probably scared, and it's good that everything worked out. He also claims that he wants to ask about something during the fight with the monster. He noticed something strange, and it seemed like someone was using ice magic. He thinks it was Sol A and then asks, "What does Yunhee think about this?" But the woman just sits in horror. The woman speaks that in her opinion it sounds stupid. After all, the baby doesn't even know how to talk properly. So how can she cast a spell when she is still a child? The main character tells the woman to look into his eyes and say, "Is she sure it wasn't Sol A?" After which, his interlocutor asks whether Lee Seo-jun will keep this a secret. The man replies that Sol A is his daughter, so he will never harm her. After which, the lady asserts that she believes and understands that he believed her all. When she came with her daughter and told him everything, the woman claimed that this magic was most likely the work of Sol A. She also asks if he remembers why she came to him, because she said that they lost their home. In fact, it happened because of Sol A. The girl lost control of her emotions, and she is afraid that if this becomes known, strange people will become interested in her. They'll also take her to some lab. The man says the lady shouldn't worry, because he'll protect their daughter at any cost, because he is her father. But the woman is interested at the same time. Didn't he think that this girl might not be his? Her interlocutor replies that Sol A is his daughter, and even if not, he will not sort this out in front of her. Yunhee looks at her interlocutor in surprise, and he realizes that his words completely contradict what he said earlier. But he rejected Sol A many times. Yunhee says with a smile on her face that it's understandable. The main character, seeing her smile, becomes embarrassed and wonders if he is out of his mind. Before his reincarnation, he was over 40, and now Yunhee is 26. So how can he have any feelings for someone who is almost 10 years younger than him? The guy understands that he has no right to feelings, after which he only asks how things are going with the squad. The woman replies that he said that the contract contains many traps. She read each page carefully and left threatening to find another squad. But this is only in words because she has no backup plan, so she doesn't know what to do now. Her interlocutor replies that he will teach her everything himself and tell her his secret. The girl, smiling, says that he will let them in on his secret. A little while later, the woman looks at something and wonders if this is his secret. The man replies that yes, and that there is a workshop there, and his interlocutor asks if they are usually in shopping centers or detachments. The guy says that it will be expensive at the shopping center, and to use the detachment's workshop, you need a certificate, so they should just follow him. When a woman looks at the workshop, she realizes that it is an ordinary workshop. But at the same moment, someone wonders if the buyers have arrived. When the main character looks at this man, he understands that they have come to the right place. Lying in the hospital, he went through all the memories of his past life, and some came to mind. This is a blacksmith who will one day become the best in the whole world. And his name is Kang Chul. The guy immediately bows and greets the gentleman. He also claims to be a novice hunter named Lee Seo-jun. The woman also bows and introduces herself, and the little girl looks at the two. He does the same and calls his name, which surprises the blacksmith. After which, with a smile on his face, he exclaims that the guys are great. He also introduces himself. The main character claims that they are novice hunters, and when he doesn't have time to finish, the blacksmith says that they need a weapon. But he asks what kind. Lee Seo-jun replies that he needs a spear, and the blacksmith asks what the lady needs too, which she replies that she hasn't decided yet, and asks if she can look around. The man replies that, of course, they have plenty of time. He also claims that the weapons in this workshop are forged from mithril, so he thinks it's perfect for beginners. He also turns to the main character and asks if he knows much about weapons, to which the guy replies that he is just an amateur, after which the main character turns to Yoon Hye, and he asks how she likes this weapon. The woman turns around and sees a bow. She also asks if he thinks this weapon will suit her, and the guy replies that she is very strong, patient, and attentive. So he thinks the bow will suit her perfectly, and he wonders if he really thinks she's that good. The blacksmith says they can try the weapon if they want, and the woman replies that no, because she will listen to Lee Seo-jun, and she thinks he knows better. The man replies that it is fine, and adds that the product is non-returnable, but they can exchange it if they change their mind. After which he also hands over a check for 2 weapons. But when the woman looks at him, he claims that this is a very expensive weapon. Lee Seo-jun tells her not to worry, because he will pay for it since he saved up for this purchase. And he did promise to help her. Yoon says she'll pay it all back later, but her interlocutor replies that it's not worth it. The woman repeats once again that she will return any money. The little girl watching them immediately turns to her mother and asks if they really don't have enough money, but she can stop buying sweets. The woman immediately tells the little girl that everything is wrong. Lee Seo-jun recalls their conversation outside the hospital about how Sol-ah never talks about her feelings. The woman claimed that people say that she is kind and naive, but she feels that she is much older than her age. After all, children her age are usually capricious, and this is probably due to their modest lifestyle. She wants the girl to try everything in this life and wants her to be happy. Now these two are watching their daughter, but at that very moment, the blacksmith takes the check, and she says that it seems that little Sol-A needs to buy something tasty. He corrects the numbers on the check and says that he likes them, and especially little Sol-A, so he'll give them a special discount. He adds in his mind that it will only cover the cost of the materials. He also asks if they will buy it, because his hands will fall off from holding this receipt, after which they cry out with gratitude. When the family heads home, the protagonist realizes that they now have weapons and can proceed to the next step. He also turns to Yoon-hee and then suggests going to the dungeon. A short time later, the woman is already shooting at targets with a bow. At one point, her arrow begins to be enveloped in magical power, after which the woman releases it, completely piercing an entire tree. The lady watches this in shock, but at the same moment, someone asks if the arrow really hit the tree. When the lady turns around, she sees her daughter and the main character. Lee Seo-jun says that maybe it's time to take a short break and eat some tteokbokki. When they start eating, the woman claims that it is very convenient to exercise there. Are no people at all, and she wonders how the guy found this place. Her interlocutor claims that this is his secret, and also understands that this is a place hidden among the mountains. In his past life, He spent a lot of time there training, and in a couple of weeks, he taught Yoon Hye the basic fighting technique, after which they prepared to enter the dungeon. The man also looks at the targets, and then says that he is amazed that she was able to stick the arrow straight into the tree. He also wonders if this is really the first time she's held a bow. The protagonist realizes that in a past life, the squad gave Yoon Hee a ball, but she was bad at handling it, and it constantly broke during battle. But one day, she picked up the bow of her fallen comrade, and she was able to reveal her talent. The guy asks if the lady can control her magical powers, to which she replies that it's not very good, and that she only tried to control it once, and it didn't work. That's why she doesn't even know if it's worth going into the dungeon with such skills. After this, the little girl turns to her mother and says that she can teach her. When a man asks what she is talking about, the lady replies that she is talking about magic. A little while later, the girl already shows her abilities, and the main character says that he is amazed. But he also asks the little girl not to overdo it, because it could be dangerous, to which the girl replies that it's fine, after which she dispels all her magic, and when she moves on, Lee Seo-jun says that he thinks they need to be more careful now, and his interlocutor claims that they need to think about who can look after the baby while they are in the dungeon. They can't take her to such a dangerous place. After all, Lee Seo-jun replies that he knows what to do, so she shouldn't worry. The guy understands that he will try his best to change everything, but it doesn't always work out so easily. He thought his father would agree when he saw Sol-ae. He had already refused him over the phone, but the guy was counting on him softening when he saw the baby. The man turns to his son and asks whose daughter this is, to which he replies that it is his. Then, his father claims that he is asking about her mother, to which he replies that it is Yoon Hee's daughter. The man also asks if the guy has thought about marriage, to which he replies that he proposed to her, and his father asks when the wedding is. But Lee Seo-jun replies that he didn't say that she agreed. His father immediately screams out what he's talking about, and the guy replies that he'll explain later. After all, now he came to ask his father for something. He also tells the little girl that this is her grandfather, after which the man extends his hand to the girl, and she remembers how her father and mother pulled her cheeks, after which the baby places her face on her grandfather's palm. The man is shocked by this, and Lee Seo-jun claims that he wanted to ask him to look after Sola. His father asks if the guy wants to leave her with him for the weekend, and Lee Seo-jun says that if he doesn't want to, he'll ask someone another, but the man immediately screams that he told me that he doesn't want to. A little while later, they are already in a jewelry store, and Eun-hye says that maybe it was worth staying with him. The man thanks her, and Eun-ho asks if this is the stone that Sul-ah found. Her interlocutor replies that yes, he does emit a special magical energy. The main character understands that the little girl has found an incredible item, and a little while ago, the blacksmith asked if Sol-ae wanted anything, because he would give her anything. The girl asked if it was true and thanked him, then pointed to a pile of things and insisted she wanted that shiny thing. The man insisted it was just a pile of trash. But when they opened one of the boxes, the blacksmith said that she was so sharp-sighted because the little one had found a real treasure. The main character looking at this stone realized that it begins to glow when it senses the radiation of magical power nearby. But such stones are used to search for artifacts in dungeons, so they are quite expensive. After which, the girl turned to her father and said that she wanted to give it to him, but the man said that it was hers. Sol-ae claimed that she was simply curious about what was glowing there, and she could see that her dad wanted one too. Now the main character is mentally thanking his daughter, and the woman asks if they really came there for this belt. Lee Seo-jun replies that such a strap can only be obtained there, and they will still need this dungeon, so maybe they will look for something for Sol-ah, since they have already come. Although the man understands that he is not there for this, and at the same moment they hear some screams. One of the fans screams that she loves him. Someone else claims that Song Soo-hyun's nose is perfectly sharp, like the peak of Avery, leaving his face shining brighter than her future. The girl asks if this is the famous hunter, and the main character replies that yes. He understands that it is world-famous and wanted, and he promotes his squad with the help of advertising. He became incredibly popular due to his unearthly beauty. Yeon-hye looks at the main character and understands that he doesn't seem to be doing well, and that he probably hasn't fully recovered from saving Sol-ae. He may also be afraid to go into the dungeon, after which the woman tells him not to worry. After all, his sister will protect him, and the guy asks what she's talking about since they're the same age. The main character understands that he is not happy to see this guy because he is the founder of the Knights Conviviality who drove Eun-hee into debt. The girl asks if they bought everything and how long until the dungeon opens, to which he replies that there is still a little time. And when the clock shows 14 hours, the main character understands that it is about to begin. At that moment, the ground begins to shake, and Yoon-hye asks if it is an earthquake. When she looks at the floor nearby, she sees that a large crack has formed there. Someone screams that a hole has formed in the middle of the shopping center. Lee Seo-jun says that you need to be on guard because this is just the beginning. Leon-hee wonders what he's talking about, but at that very moment, someone screams, and she receives a message that the dungeon has been opened and a special quest has begun. Spiders are starting to crawl out of the dungeon, and the quest says to clear out a dungeon called the Ruined Shopping Center. When people start to run away, they notice that the doors from the shopping center do not open. Someone screams out why the doors are locked and asks to let them out and help. Oni says there are too many monsters and asks where to start. But at that very moment, the main character jumps into the crowd of monsters and begins to chop them down. He also tells people to run to the exit because there will be hunters there, and the guy he saved thanks him. Lee Seo-jun claims that if they join forces with the hunters, they will cope faster, so they need to go. At this time, Song-soo also cuts down the monsters. He shouts to his colleagues to make sure the building doesn't collapse, because they need to deal with the monsters as quickly as possible. At that very moment, a girl grabs hold of him and screams asking for help and to be let out of there. But the guy only pushes her towards the place where the monster is. The main character thinks what a freak this guy is, and the girl screams begging for help. At the same moment, someone else is cutting down the monsters, and when the main character looks there, who's wondering what that girl is doing there? This lady's name is Go Hee-young, and this huntress lived until the very last day, but she should not be there. Lee Seo-jun. He understands that he needs to pull himself together because he can't get distracted. He also shouts for the hunters to disperse with the civilians in a circle, and they will hold the defense. Let them remain calm and make every effort to save citizens, after which all the hunters begin to exterminate the monsters. Lee Seo-jun, pulling a spear out of another spider, realizes that this seems to be all. He also asks if Yoon-hye is okay, but he doesn't claim she did well for her first time. She replies that yes, she had only just exhaled when all her strength was gone. Song-soo recalls how one of his subordinates approached him and handed him a lady's resume. The guy claimed that he thought they had finally found a good hunter. He doesn't know how this girl understood everything, but she left the contract and just left. Now, the guy turns to the lady and extends his hand, thanking her for her hard work because she did a great job. But at that very moment, the main character stands in front of her and shakes this guy's hand. He greets him and states that his name is Lee Seo-jun. Sung-soo coldly replies that it's nice to meet him, and the protagonist realizes that he's no longer so talkative around him. At that moment, one of the women comes up and screams, asking to save her child. She claims that the guy was bitten by a tarantula, but he can still be saved if he receives first aid. Lee Seo-jun claims that the exit will open once they completely clear the dungeon, and if the hunters defeat the boss. But at the same moment, Song-soo claims that he is against it, because in 24 hours the exit will open itself. So is he really suggesting attacking the boss with so many hunters? The main character replies that there are enough of them, because otherwise this child will not live. But his interlocutor claims that it seems the guy is a novice hunter. After all, he is not so stupid as to rush outside a dungeon that he has fully explored, so his words are useless. He stays there, and the others too. Yeon-hee cries out, "Shouldn't they at least try to save a human life?" Lee Seo-jun realizes that in his past life, Sung-soo always protected the dungeon after the entrance was opened. "Hey, Yeon." At this time, she claims that she provided first aid, so let the boy be patient for a little while. After which, she even claims that she will go with these two. The woman also says that she should probably introduce herself first and claims that her name is Hee-young. Lee Seo-jun understands that he was not mistaken, and as far as he remembers, Go Hee-yeon cleared the dungeon with Sun Soo-hyun only after the entrance was opened. Sung-soo says that he thought that at least Go Hee-yeon would be smarter than these newcomers. But does she really want to fall into eternal sleep so badly? But the woman just tells the guy not to waste his time on nonsense. After all, she thinks that he should give up hunting. The main character says that once everyone is ready, They will split up and begin clearing the dungeon. Called the Destroyed Shopping Mall when they descend into the dungeon, Yuni asks what that light is because it's incredible. The man replies that it's luminescent moss, and it grows in the darkest parts of the dungeon. Go Hee-yeon says that Yoon-hee turns out to be a newbie, but she thought the girl was already experienced since she fought so well. Yoon-hee replies that the lady flatters her. The woman understands that they are very good for novice hunters, and especially Lee Seo-jung, because he fights well and also has the ability to judge objectively and leadership qualities. The woman asserts that before an attack, a commander must be identified. This role requires the ability to assess the situation and think rationally. Therefore, she is not good enough to be a commander. Yoon-hee claims that she is also unsure of her abilities, after which Go Hee-yeon asks, "What about Lee Seo-jun?" The girl realizes he's an excellent leader, so he'll be their commander. The protagonist thinks this is incredible. She tests his mettle and pushes him to evaluate his own abilities. Lee Seo-jun certainly planned to show what he was capable of, but it wasn't supposed to go this far. The guy claims that he is not so confident in himself either, but since they don't want it, he has no choice. By pretending to be on task with such a role, he will complicate her task because he is not so easy to figure out. A little while later, the protagonist claims that he thinks they are there, and when the ladies look there, then they ask if this is really a slime. But after all, beginners train on slime, and if this is really the boss of this dungeon, the guy tells the lady not to underestimate him. A boss is a boss. He's big, sure, but he's still just slime. So the girl suggests simply getting rid of her. Lee Seo-jun insists that he's the boss there, so she should listen to him. The man claims that the slime reacts to vibrations, so they should be careful when moving on the floor. And Go Hee-yeon claims that she will go first. The girl uses magical power and jumps off the slope. Yoon-hee wonders if all hunters are this cool. The main character claims that they don't know how to do it yet, but everything will come with practice. Suddenly, the hook that Yun-ho was hooked on slips and she falls. Lee Seo-jun asks if she's okay, to which the girl replies that yes, but now vibrations have occurred. Go Hee-young, he tells the lady not to worry, because he is big but very clumsy. However, at that very moment, the monster flies past her and takes aim at Yoon-hye. The main character barely manages to save the girl. Hee-young says that this can't be. Could this really be the boss? After which they hide behind one of the walls. Lee Seo-jun realizes that, as expected, he is more sensitive to vibrations than he appears. Until this moment, everything was going according to plan. A little while ago, her boyfriend suggested holding a small meeting. He claimed that fire doesn't like to get off, and with its help, they can break through the protective layers and get to the core. He and Hee-yeon will take care of his shell, and Yoon-hee will be on backup. And if anything happens, she will have to cover them and set the monster on fire. Well, if he keeps this up, they won't be able to throw the combustible mixture, and he's already keeping quiet about launching a retaliatory strike. If they wait too long, nothing will come of it. Hey? Yun wonders if he really needs to be distracted, after which she claims that it seems like she is the only one there who can use magic against the earth. After which the woman claims that she will be back now. And then she starts jumping. The lady screams that in terms of endurance, she is always in first place, and it is simply impossible to catch her. But when she makes another jump, the monster almost touches her. The girl understands that he is trying to stop them, but he still can't get close. This means he is capable of a lot, but only if he is in one place, and he is like a mouse in a mousetrap. If she cuts the protective shell, then everything might work out. The protagonist observes this stance and understands that this is the skill of absolute splitting. This is a skill that the girl often used in her past life, after which the lady begins to cut down the monster. He also understands that Go Hee-yeon from the past easily cut this monster into 2 parts. But now, she wasn't skilled enough as a hunter or a swordsman. While cutting down the monster, the girl realized its armor was too thick and her sword was rusting. The lady also understands that this monster recovers too quickly, and she does not think that she will be able to last long with such a sword. But when she sees that the monster is already looming over her, she realizes that it is too late to do anything. At that very moment, she notices a flying bottle, and then the main character appears in front of her and cuts it down. Hee-yeon watches this in surprise and wonders if this is oil. Lee Seo-jun claims that the core of this monster is more difficult to reach, and it is highly acidic, so they must get rid of its shell as quickly as possible. The woman replies that it's easy to say, but it seems that they can't handle it anymore. But thanks to him, she survived. Lee Seo-jun replies that she can thank him later, because now she needs to clean up. But the lady screams, asking if he thinks the monster is too aggressive for a slime. The main character replies that he thinks it was the lady who angered him. The woman asks what to do, then since they threw oil, but they can't get closer and set it on fire. When a guy wants to say what he was going to do about the fire, the monster is already to the left of Hee-yeon Lee. Seo-jun realizes that he has let his guard down, but with such a ball, she won't be able to repel the attack. But at the same moment, Yoon-hae is preparing to launch an arrow, after which this arrow with fire flies near Hee-yeon and sets the monster on fire. He starts to burn all over, and Yoon-hee remembers how Lee Seo-jun said that if something happens, the girl should cover them and set the monster on fire. A magic arrow will help her in this matter, and the girl asked if they were talking about it. The lady also claimed that she had never been on backup before and still had poor control over her magical power, so she was not sure that she could do it. Lee Seo-jun replied that she could do it because the lady had already trained enough on spiders, and she did it perfectly. He also told Yoon-hee not to doubt herself. Now they can already see the core of the monster and immediately run up to it. Lee Seo-jun screams that he needs to destroy it before the monster recovers, but at that very moment, the monster begins to bend. Ani takes out another arrow and then launches it, and then does this a couple more times. This helps distract the monster, and Lee Seo-jun can reach the core, after which the guy stabs him. One of the reporters claims he's near the dungeon, blocking the exit from the shopping center. The city's residents gathered in anticipation of their friends and relatives trapped within these walls. The dungeon will open in 24 hours unless cleared sooner. Sol A turns to her grandfather and asks what it is, and the man remembers asking his son why he decided to leave Sol A in his care. The guy answered that he and Yoon-hae needed to go to the shopping center for work, and the man asked if there was really a shopping center there. His son replied that yes, it was built recently, and it was called Darien, after which he said that it was time for him to go. Now the girl turns to her grandfather, but at the same moment, someone reports that the exit from the dungeon has just opened. They can see several victims and the hunter son Soo-hyun. At this time, the little girl with a smile on her face says that mom and dad are there. The man immediately asks where, and the girl points to them. The baby immediately screams to her mom and dad, after which she runs to them, and they joyfully wait for her with open arms. After which they all hug, and Yoon-hee asks what the girl is doing there and whether she came on her own. Hey? Yeon asks who it is, and the man replies that it is their daughter, and her name is Sol A. Their interlocutor asks if they are married, and the guy replies that not quite. After which the little girl turns to the lady with red hair and calls her sister. The woman is touched by this and says that she needs to see what she can give this cutie. Lee Seo-jun says she's not the only one who's crazy about this girl's cuteness. The little girl then turns to her dad and points to her grandfather. When the main character looks at him, he understands that he is very unhappy, and he can already see from his father's face what awaits him. A little while later, they are already watching the news. Says there that at first he was very scared, but his uncle and aunt saved him. The protagonist's father understands that hunters have a promising career, but there is a reason for such success. They risk their lives, so they are treated with special respect. The man realizes he had a strange premonition, but he couldn't have imagined that they were both hunters. Officially, they weren't hunters yet, but they soon would be because they'd cleared the dungeon, and he didn't even know whether to be happy for them or not. The man also asks how their daughter is doing, because he hopes that the guy is not going to leave her alone every time they go into the dungeon. The guy understands that he already has some plans, and it's worth admitting that Sol A still doesn't have a nanny. His father then claims that it seems nothing can be done, and he will have to look after her. Lee Seo-jun asks if he agrees to this, to which the man replies that yes, because she is such an obedient girl, there is no need to keep a close eye on her. After which, his father turns to Yoon-hee and asks if they can talk alone. A little while later, the two are left alone, and the man claims that he does not want to pressure her into marriage. So he asks her if she likes Lee Seo-jun. She replies that's not the issue, and the man asks if that means he still has a chance. The lady recalls how he accepted them without any questions, and then how he took care of their daughter. And now the woman says yes, and then the man replies that it's okay because everything is in his hands. He also claims that he heard about what happened, and that she had to go through a lot. When the girl was in the hospital, someone asked why she was all alone, and she hoped that someone was looking after her. Someone else claimed that she heard that the lady lost her parents early, and the location of the child's father is unknown. The girl understands that it was all thanks to her resilience that she and Lee Seo-jun parted ways in an ugly way. That's why she decided to raise the child on her own and thought she could handle it on her own. The girl worked part-time as a tutor in a store and even worked in a warehouse. The lady often remembered Lee Seo-jun, but continued to assert herself that everything would work out for her. And a little while later, the baby got sick. The girl ran with the baby on her shoulders to the hospital, and after some time, she still decided to contact him, but it seemed to her that it was too late. A little while later, when the main character was walking with the little girl, suddenly her ice cream fell and ice appeared next to it. When the baby fell, ice formed around her. Eun-hye began to notice strange looks at her baby. She felt like she had to protect Sol-A on her own. The woman also addressed the little girl and asked her to promise that she would not show her powers to anyone except her mother. The girl asked if this would be their secret, and the woman with a smile on her face replied that, yes, it was their favorite little secret. Now the lady cannot hold back her tears. And Lee Seo-jun's father claims that he understands that the girl is her daughter. Well, she is also Lee Seo-jun's daughter and also his granddaughter. Therefore, she can rely on them even if difficulties arise. Then let her turn to him, or to Lee Seo-jun, because he is sure that his son would tell her the same thing. A little while later, the woman returns to her daughter, and she asks if her mother was really crying. The woman, wiping her eyes, replies that everything is wrong, and Lee Seo-jun looks menacingly at his father. The man asks why he is looking at her like that, since he is not guilty of anything, and Eun-hye says that yes, nothing happened. The man then asks what they will do next, and the guy replies that they are going to start preparing to receive a certificate. A little while later, the guy walks through the snowy city and realizes that there is not a single soul there, after which he sees someone else and wonders if this is really the one he is thinking about. The girl turns to the guy with tears in her eyes and asks why he did this to her, and also why he didn't save her. There was no answer, and the protagonist doesn't know why he didn't utter a word. Maybe he physically couldn't do it, or maybe he just couldn't find an excuse, and at that moment he could only silently look at Sol-A. The girl claimed that she was so unhappy and hated Lee Seo-jun, after which she pointed her blades at him, and when the man prepared to strike, suddenly someone speaks to him and he opens his eyes. Eun-hye turns to her daughter and asks if her dad is awake yet, to which she replies that yes. The girl tells her father to wake up quickly because the sun has already risen. The man wonders if he really slept that long, and his interlocutor suggests that he wash up and come straight to breakfast because she thinks that today he can skip his exercises. She also says that he was tossing and turning in his sleep and wonders if he was having a nightmare. But the main character can no longer remember what he dreamed. A little while later, the man looks at his phone and realizes that they are running out of money. Well, he also knows that the income will increase when they receive the certificate, but they still have to live until then, and there is almost nothing left in the account. Eun-hye comes into their room and asks what the two are doing. Lee Seo-jun answers that it is called Soul a therapy, and when he lies with his daughter, all problems disappear. So what else is needed for happiness? At that very moment, the woman throws them off the blanket and tells him to get up and stop lying around. But he just lies down on the floor and claims there are no meetings scheduled today. But at that very moment, the man notices that he's received a 1,000,001 deposit. He cries out in shock, wondering if Eun-hye had experienced the same thing, and the woman replies that yes, but asks what it is. At that moment, someone calls them. It turns out to be Hee-young, and asks if her sister has already received the money. Eun-hye asks why she did this, and the girl asks what it means, why beat. This happened after the monsters were plunged into eternal sleep, and they don't have an ID yet, so the guys from the squad helped her. Eun-hye asks what it means to drop something, and the protagonist replies that the Corps can drop many rewards and useful items. Yeon turns to her brother and asks if he got the money. The monsters weren't very strong, so it probably wasn't that much. Yeon replies that 1,000,001 is a lot. His interlocutor replies that registered hunters receive much more. She also asks if they are taking the exam soon, to which they reply that it will be in a month. This is a certification exam that assesses the skill of novice hunters. It's somewhat similar to taking a driver's license. Those who have a certificate are granted all the rights of a full-fledged hunter, and those who successfully pass the exam and receive a certificate not only gain access to all opportunities, such as collecting a lot, but are also officially recognized as a hunter. The woman also says that this is great, and let them tell when the day is known, because she will come to support them and look after Sol A. The protagonist realizes that this Go Hee Yeon is very different from the one he knew before, and that she may have a hidden motive. For example, lure them into your squad. And this is of course really tempting, because they are very popular in Korea. But then the guy realizes that he shouldn't get too far ahead and says that he will contact her closer to the exam. The man also understands that now he no longer has to worry about money, and that they still have a lot of time before the exam, after which they turn to the little girl and claim that they are going shopping. A little while later, the girl says goodbye to her parents and wishes them good luck on the exam. The two also say goodbye to baby Ah Hee-young. She says that the new dress suits the girls so much, although everything suits her. Eun-hee turns to Lee Seo-jun and asks if he is sure that he can handle it, because he trained so much that he completely forgot about the theory, and it seems that he did not prepare much. Her interlocutor replies that she shouldn't worry because he's thought about it in advance. The guy realizes that in a past life, he failed this exam several times. He always got the highest score for the theoretical part because he knew everything by heart due to lack of practice. Part 2 every time, and he looked terribly exhausted when he finally got his certificate. The guy also realizes that Yoon Hae seems nervous, and that it's best not to take the exam in this state. After that, the guy suggests a bet, and when the lady asks about it, he answers that he will get more points for the theory, and the loser in this dispute will owe a wish. The girl understands that he is confident in himself, after which she says that it is worth trying, and that he already owes her a desire. Her interlocutor claims that he who laughs last laughs best, and understands that from this day on, he can officially begin work to protect Sola from misfortune. If a girl is destined to experience 5 misfortunes, then he will do everything to prevent them, and see a smile on Soleil's face. At this moment in the swordsman's quarters, someone addresses the master. This man claims that the exam to obtain a certificate will begin soon, and he claims that this means that today is when it's time for them to move out. His interlocutor notes that it is good, and he will prepare a vehicle, but he replies that it is not necessary because he will go on foot, after which the man emerges from his chambers. At this moment, someone congratulates everyone who successfully completed Part 1 of the exam. The guy realizes that he and Yoon Hae passed the theory and easily moved on to the second part. The man claims that they can see a monster, and this so-called scarecrow on the examination field. If they infect the dummy within the allotted time and do not receive serious injuries, then the exam will be passed successfully. Let them not forget that they are being watched by representatives of various squads, so they have the opportunity to show up and get into one of them. There are no questions they ask. Participant number 1 to begin taking the exam. After that, the exam begins and the participants gradually drop out. The commission claims there isn't a single outstanding fighter there. Some of them claim that she can still understand if they lose in a couple of seconds, but she cannot believe that some give up without a fight. One of the ladies asks if this man is the holy swordsman from the chambers of the ball player Goryeo, and yet it seems as if he's never been in the observation room before. The holy swordsman is the man who on the day humanity was on the brink saved the world from total destruction. He founded the world-famous Koryo Swordsman's Company. He is not only popular, but also highly skilled. Whenever the best hunters in South Korea are mentioned, his name is always mentioned. Someone claims there's no point in monitoring the participants any longer, and that the most talented will be chosen by the holy swordsman anyway. One of them asks if anyone will really choose one of them instead of him, and why he even decided to come. Someone else claims that he heard that his granddaughter persuaded him to come and escape from the attacks that were recently shown on the news. At the same moment, the girl turns to the girl and claims that she is there. The man asks who the child is next to her, and the woman replies that it is the daughter of her friend, and she was asked to look after her while her parents were taking the exam. The little girl looks at the man, and then wonders if this is Santa Claus. The man claims that he is a holy ball and not Santa, and the girl says that it is clear, after which she introduces herself. He Yeon asks her grandfather how the participants are doing, and he replies that it's terrible, although the last one wasn't that bad. The girl immediately looks out the window and sees her mother. Afterwards, they announce that participant number 28 completed the task in 16 seconds and is given a pass. When a girl changes with the next participant, she gives him 5. Lee Seo-jun claims that Yoon Hae did a great job, and the girl claims that she practiced a lot, after which she wishes Seo-jun good luck. When a man steps into the ring, someone realizes that he needs to get this over with quickly, and then someone declares that participant number 29 can begin taking the exam. One of the examiners asks what he is thinking and why he is just standing there, and also whether he is frozen from fear. The Holy Swordsman understands that he is assessing the situation and his opponent, after which the monster strikes, but the guy deftly slips under it. The guy realizes that after numerous attempts to pass the exam in his past life, he has identified the weakness of this monster. There is a large crack in his armor, and then he sees her. Those who are watching understand that everyone knows that his weak point is his hinges. So why doesn't Lee Seo-jun do anything? One of the ladies wonders if he has another plan, after which the guy jumps, and he thrusts his spear into the monster's weak spot. He also kicks the spear away with his foot, exposing the monster's rear, after which he rummages through the spare parts and pulls out a core. One of the spectators claims that this can't be true because it's a core, after which the monster begins to scream and then completely disintegrates. Someone claims that participant number 29 completed the task in 14 seconds. When he comes back, the other participants say that it's amazing, and the Holy Swordsman claims that apparently the girl called him for this guy, to which you respond that this guy is incredible and asks if grandfather agrees. He claims that it is not so difficult to determine the monster's weakness, but he thought through every step and got to the core. Hey? Yeon congratulates them on passing the exam and says that they are probably very hungry because they haven't eaten anything since morning. So let them enjoy it because it is her gift. Aeun Hae says that it seems like a very expensive establishment, and the girl replies that she has already paid for everything. And maybe they just take her somewhere when they become famous hunters for something and answer that of course, and they will do it as soon as the opportunity arises. Lee Seo-jun realizes that he thought the girl would call them her squad, and maybe he is too biased towards Go Hee-young. He looks for a hidden motive in every good deed, and it's not just because he knew Go Hee-young in his past life. Well, the fact that she is the granddaughter of a holy swordsman, but it seems she has no evil intentions, and maybe he is just exaggerating. At this time, the girl turns to her brother and states that she wants to ask him something. She also wonders where his son and sister got the weapons. The guy understands that if he tells Yeon will introduce the holy swordsman and Kang Chul-yi. This is the best hunter of the first generation, who is called the Holy Swordsman, and the future best blacksmith in the world, Kang Cheol-eber. This will all go much further if we take into account the butterfly effect. A little while later, the guy is already sitting in front of the computer, but at that very moment, someone applies a cold drink to his neck. Lee Seo-jun gets scared and screams that he is cold, and the girl asks why he is so scared and whether he is really busy with something. The guy wondered if the lady remembered what Yeon, had asked, and he decided to answer her via text. He introduced Kang Chul-yi to Go Hee-yeon. The girl was planning to change weapons, so she asked him where he got his. And at first he was a little worried about the butterfly effect, but he decided not to think about it again. Meanwhile, Yoon-hee says that this girl is very kind. Lee Seo-jun realizes he doubted her sincerity the moment he heard her question. But as Yoon-hee said, Go Hee-yeon is actually very kind and has never let them down during all this time. She is different from the Go Hee-yeon he knew before, and she can be trusted. The girl asks if he is preparing for tomorrow's exam, and he replies that the location has already been announced, so he is just double-checking everything. He collects information and knowledge that can help them in the exam, after which Yoon-hee thanks Lee Seo-jun. He claims that she thanks him for everything he has done, and she can't even count how many times he has already helped her. The guy claims that this is the first time he sees Yoon-hee drinking, and wonders if she is drunk, but the girl screams that she is actually serious. Lee Seo-jun insists he doesn't know what he did, and that she should thank him after the exam, as they'll easily pass it. He never imagined his life would turn out like this. A little while later, they are already on Mount Gwanak. The exam score is based on your ability to team up with other players to achieve a common goal. Since a lot depends on the participant's contribution, receiving an award is one of the conditions for passing the exam. A little while later, there is a roll call, and when 3 participants are chosen, they state that they will now begin clearing the dungeon. The clearing time is 3 hours, and they are only allowed to use one type of weapon and the consumables they provide. They will be given 30 minutes to discuss. Lee Seojun understands that Heo Man-soo, most likely he is a magician, and magic is rare and is known from Togo, but he does not remember him. But he heard a lot about Kang Dae-ho in his past life. He is a hunter who did not use weapons and fought only with his fists. Just think he met a hunter who would later become the king of fist fighting. But now it's more important to understand whether he was lucky with his comrades. And the guy says that he thinks it's better to determine positions and think through a plan before the exam. He also asks if they have any suggestions. But looking at these two, he understands that it seems he will have to take everything on himself. A little while later, someone claims that Team 12 is about to take the exam, and they ended up in a dungeon. After conferring, they decided on positions with ranged hunter, Homansu positioned in the rear. He would be in the center and direct the process. And in front will be Kang Dae-ho. Usually when people enter a dungeon for the first time, they are scared. Mansu asks if they can really protect him, and the guy thinks that everything happens like this. He also wonders what he's talking about, since they didn't come there to protect him, but his interlocutor cries out, "Does he even know who he is?" "They're screwed if he gets hurt," he says, "and let the guy go first since he's so brave." Kang Dae-ho says that maybe they should just leave him there, and Lee Seo-jun says that the two of them can handle it, and then they can go. Then the two move on, and their companion wonders if they are really going to leave, after which everyone shouts at him to wait for him. Lee Seo-jun tells Heo Man-soo to leave all the jewelry with the examiner, as the jingling might reveal its location. But his interlocutor cries out, if he knows how much it's worth and what will happen if it's stolen. Lee Seo-jun understands that this often happens during exams, and sometimes there are people who only care about themselves. The examiner says that the leader's word is law, so he should leave the jewelry outside. But the young man only cries out, have they really conspired and are trying to profit from him? He also tells this guy to answer when he is about to touch Lee Seo-jun. Then he just waves his leg in front of his face. Why does the poppy get scared and then fall to its knees? Lee Seo-jun takes his spear and states that he is repeating one last time for him to take off all the jewelry and leave it outside the dungeon. He answers that it's good, and the examiner understands that he did it so easily and accurately, and even calculated the distance. He heard about a person who passed the theory exam with the highest score and completed the practical exam faster than anyone else, so he understands that he has competition. As they move on, Lee Seo-jun realizes that this is strange, because they have been in the dungeon for quite a long time and have not met a single ant on the way. Even the luminescent moss is already behind us, and sometimes examiners set up difficult situations to see how the participants cope with them. But this situation seems a little strange, after which Kang Dae-ho claims that something strange is ahead, after which they see a huge hole. The protagonist realizes he's never seen anything like it in this dungeon. It would have been easier to deal with the examiner's trap than with this one. But at that very moment, the magician stumbled, after which they all fall into the pit. Lee Seo-jun immediately extends his spear, and the boy grabs it. The main character tells Ho Man-soo not to move, but he screams that something is pulling him down. Lee Seo-jun asks what he means, after which an anteater jumps out from there. He pulls the guy inside, and Lee Seo-jun jumps up and screams that they need to save him. The examiner yells at them to wait, as this isn't part of the exam. At that moment, a message arrives, informing them that they've entered a hidden dungeon, and that this is the beginning of a special quest, the lair of the devourer ant. A little while later, Kang Dae-ho pulls out the protagonist and asks if he is okay. Lee Seo-jun thanks him and asks if he also saw the notification, to which his interlocutor replies that, yes, there was something about a special quest. When the main character looks at the location in front of him, he says that this is a hidden dungeon. Kang Dae-ho claims that he knew that unexpected things could happen during the exam, but he didn't expect something like this. Lee Seo-jun replies, yes, and the country examiner doesn't react. The guy realizes there was no hidden dungeon there before, and maybe this is the butterfly effect. But at that very moment, they hear someone screaming, and Kang De-ho asks what they should do now. Lee Seo-jun claims that they still have time because the anteater usually puts aside food, but his interlocutor says that they can wait for the examiner's help. Lee Seo-jun claims that the entrance to the open dungeon is closed to those who enter it for the first time, and he doubts that the examiner will be able to help them. The guy watches his interlocutor and understands that he is very worried because he was there for the first time. There are only 2 of them left, but he didn't do it without a reason. He's going to collect the reward for clearing the hidden dungeon. After clearing the dungeon, the hunter receives generous rewards. And the first one to clear the dungeon receives an elixir, and this elixir can increase stats. That's why every hunter dreams of him, and maybe he looks like a moth rushing into a flame. But one of them is the king of fist fighting, and the other is reincarnated. So the rules of the game change. Lee Seo-jun argues that they should try to save him, despite the danger, because people should always help each other. And he thinks this applies especially to hunters. Kang De-ho cries out that this is true and is ashamed of his doubts. Then Kang De-ho says that he will leave the role of leader to Lee Seo-jun and says that he does not have to address him with such respect, to which he agrees, and then suggests starting to clear out the dungeon called the Lair of the Devourer Ant. A little while later, they are already fighting with the ants, and one of them asks why the non-living bodies of the ants are moving. His interlocutor replies that these monsters turned into zombies after being consumed by an anteater, and that they are ghost ants. Kang De-ho says he was wondering where all the ants had gone, and he realizes the fight is going quite well since he can handle them in no time. He also wonders if this is a force that arose from fear, since this is his first time there. Lee Seo-jun tells him to be careful, because there is a monster approaching him from behind, after which De-ho skillfully deals with all the monsters. He also wonders if it was all thanks to Seo-jun, and no matter how hard things got, he always showed up with a weapon and dealt with any problems. De-ho feels like he has hundreds of battles behind him. He also understands that this person can be relied upon. Lee Seo-jun claims that the ghost ants are most likely lured by luminescent moss. De-ho asks if it's true, and it seems Moha will stop more and more. But if everything is so, Lee Seo-jun replies that if his guess is correct, they will soon reach the boss, and he is sure that Ho Man-soo is there. One of them claims that this guy is still walking, of course, but he hopes that everything is okay with him, after which they see this guy. But when De-ho wants to go towards him, Lee Seo-jun tells him to move away. However, it turns out to be too late, and De-ho is grabbed by the leg. The main character turns to him worriedly, but he replies that he is fine, because he managed to create a shield. However, it won't last long. When the protagonist destroys an ant with his spear, he realizes he's impenetrable. This monster is different from the golem dummy, and its body is rigid in itself. Lee Seo-jun understands that he needs to think about his weakness, and he has fought with countless times. And each time he made incredible efforts to remember all the weak points, after which the guy immediately jumps up and pierces the monster's eye. He lets go of De-ho, and the man falls and thinks about what he cut off, after which he realizes that it was an eye and an antenna. Lee Seo-jun asks if his companion is okay, to which he replies that yes, and he can continue fighting. The main character tells De-ho to listen to him carefully because they need to get to the body before the monster hides again. The man asks if they really need to get to the body and if this monster is still alive. Lee Seo-jun. He replies that the cut-off eyes and antennae mean almost nothing because they are supposed to hit vulnerable spots. He also asks if De-ho will try, and he is confident that he will succeed. De-ho remembers how someone asked if he was a hunter who fought with his fists, and he behaved terribly carelessly. Someone else also claimed that he doesn't think he's right for them, so let the guy go because he can't even properly give a command, because he does everything his own way. However, now Lee Seo-jun claims that he has great technique and is the most energetic hunter he knows. At that moment, De-ho gets up from his seat and says that he understands. And he also screams that he should trust Seo-jung, after which he grabs the monster with his bare hands. He screams trying to go deeper into the ground, but De-ho holds him with all his strength, after which he screams that he can't get out, and then he pulls him out of the ground and wonders if his body isn't even covered in shell. De-ho turns to Seo-jun and claims that he can no longer cope. The main character says that he did a great job and did a good job, after which he cuts off half of the monster, and receives a message that he is the first to clear the hidden dungeon, the lair of the Devourer Ant, and also completed a special quest. Says with a smile that they have done a great job, and the message states that they will be given a reward for clearing the dungeon. A short time later, they are already at the hunting license issuance ceremony and are congratulated on passing the exam. After much effort, they passed the exam and finally became hunters. Of course, this is a big step towards changing the future, but it is only the beginning. The guy notices that his bracelet starts to glow and wonders why this is so, since there is no hint of a rift appearing. At that moment, Yoonhee's bag begins to float, and Lee Seo-jun understands what kind of magic it is. He also sees a lollipop flying out of their bags and wonders if someone is doing magic. After which, he looks at his daughter and thinks that this can't be. Because of this, their house was destroyed, and the Cretan bull was trapped. Soleil's magic becomes so strong that she can no longer control it. A little while later, the woman claims that it was Sol-A's magic, but her interlocutor is interested in what exactly happened on the day their house was destroyed. The woman replies that she asked her where her dad was and burst into tears when she found out that she couldn't meet him, and then the house collapsed. Lee Seo-jun understands that this is why they came to him, and this time everything ended with a simple levitation of a lollipop. But the girl is capable of more, and it seems that the girl has all the abilities of a magician. After which he realizes that she is much stronger than an ordinary magician, and the only problem is that she cannot control her magic. The manifestation of her powers depends on emotions, and the main character claims that this is only his proposal, but it seems so, that now she reacts even to the most insignificant events. Yoonho asks what he means, and the guy replies that the girl's magic is becoming so strong that she can no longer control it. The woman is wondering what will happen in court now, and that she might have problems if she accidentally injures someone. Lee Seo-jun replies that they can help her. The boy realizes he knew this day would come, because the girl lost control of her powers in her past life, but he didn't think it would happen so soon. One of the reasons the girl became so sensitive was the lack of magical power around her, so they have to take her to a place where there's enough magic. Yoonhee asks if that's really the case, after which everyone tells him that this can't be, and the guy replies that she understood everything correctly. There are only two magical places, and it is a dungeon or a battlefield. Yoonhee screams, "Has he really gone crazy? It's dangerous, and what will happen if the girl gets hurt?" At that moment, the baby begins to wake up, and Lee Seo-jun says that he also would not want to expose her to such danger. He understands that even if this means she will become the final boss in the future, but now the baby is only 5 years old, but she must face danger in order to avoid what is destined for her future. The man also thinks what might change if he lets Sol-A go through this. At the same moment, Yoonho apologizes and claims that she is sure that he thought well. Her interlocutor claims that she shouldn't fight the monsters because they will get rid of them beforehand, and she just needs to be there. Dungeons usually belong to squads, so he's not sure she'll be allowed in there, and only a weirdo would agree to that. Yoonhee says that if they knew someone who could let them into the dungeon or the field. Lee Seo-jun says that it's worth trying something, and a little later, they are already near the chambers of the Holy Swordsman Koryo. At that moment, someone greets them, and the little girl immediately says that this is her little sister. The woman immediately hugs the baby and says that she has become even more adorable. Lee Seo-jun approaches Hee Young and claims that he came to ask her for a favor, but the woman suggests continuing inside. She also says that they need to head straight up the stairs, and Lee Seo-jun looks at her. He realizes he's already forgotten about it. A little while later, the little girl is already lying in a pile of toys, and Yoonhee wonders who would build a house on a mountain with a 3-kilometer staircase. Yoonhee says that this house is so old, and when you first enter it seems quite modern, but from the outside it looks more like a hanok. The girl also says that at first she didn't understand why the guy wanted to see Hee-young. She had no idea that the girl was the granddaughter of a holy swordsman. Hee-young, she claims that it's normal for newbies not to know this, since she didn't become a hunter for popularity and doesn't really talk about herself. The lady also wonders if they really wanted to ask her for something and asks what the matter is. A little while later, they explain the situation, and the girl asks if they are talking about the battlefield of the Holy Mountain Goryeo. Lee Seo-jun replies, yes, and he knows you have a training field in her unit. Rifts are divided into 3 main categories. The first ones generate monsters that disappear afterwards. these are random rifts. The second ones generate underground in buildings and living quarters, and these are destructive faults. The complete opposite of random rifts are those that regularly generate monsters and remain permanent. These are called permanent rifts. A battlefield is a place where many rifts have formed. The guy asks if they can use the field, and the woman replies that it would be inconvenient to be on the same field with the squad members. But they can certainly get there. And she'll find out when the field is clear. Lee Seo-jun asks if this is true and wonders if they really agreed so easily. The girl replies that he introduced her to Mr. Kang Chul, and therefore she should thank him for that. Lee Seo-jun realizes he thought nothing would work out. But now he feels such relief. The girl insists she'll go ask permission. A little while later, Yoon-hae claims that Hee-yeon is delayed, and her interlocutor claims that Koryo's chambers are of impressive size, which is probably why moving around takes so much time. At that moment, someone enters the room and asks if Ms. Go Hee-yeon is there. Lee Seo-jun replies that she stepped away for a while and asks what the matter is, to which the maid replies that she has guests. At that moment, someone asks why she has been gone for so long, and Lee Seo-jun heard a familiar voice and wondered if it was Sun Soo-hyun and what he was doing there. He tells them to just look, because it's Yoo Yoon-hee, and the novice hunter Lee Seo-jun realizes it would be strange if this show-off remembered his name. Go Hee. Yeon was quite rude to him back then, so he doesn't understand why this guy came. Sung-soo says there's nothing he can do since she's apparently busy. The maid tells him to come next time, and he turns to Lee Seo-jun and says that before he leaves, after which he points to the novice hunter and invites him to step aside for a few words. When they find themselves on the street, people passing by ask if this is really the famous hunter, but he looks amazing. Sung-soo is completely admiring himself. Lee Seo-jun, however, understands that he can't simply kick him out because he's not the owner of this place. Sung-soo talks about the reward for cleaning up the destroyed shopping mall and claims that he came for his share. The protagonist wonders what kind of nonsense he's talking about, but his interlocutor insists that whoever discovered the dungeon first clears it. He intended to begin clearing it after the exit opened, but these two stole it by right. And besides, if people find out that the two who cleared the dungeon were not hunters, they will have problems. Lee Seo-jun thinks about what he is saying and wonders what he wants to say with this, because everyone has the right to receive a reward for clearing the dungeon. But his interlocutor tells them to give this award to him, and does the guy really think that he can argue with him? He is the leader of a squad of knights and a celebrity, with a good reputation, so it is better not to spoil relations with him, especially for a useless newcomer like him. The protagonist recalls everything he did in the dungeon, after which everyone says that Sung-soo was so scared back then. His interlocutor says that the guy showed his true colors, but the main character wonders if he is deliberately getting on his nerves. Sung-soo claims that he does not intend to listen to these insults directed at him, and his interlocutor claims that now he understands what Go Hee-yeon meant then. After all, he's not worthy of the title of hunter. A little while later, Hee-yeon returns and asks if they've been waiting long enough, as she's received permission. But when the girl looks around the room, she wonders where Lee Seo-jun is gone. Yoon-hee replies that Sung-soo has arrived and called him for a few words. Her interlocutor exclaims, "Why did that idiot come?" After which she says, "Okay, maybe we should give them a little tour." Yoon-hee wonders if everything will be okay. She understands that he hasn't been resting at all lately, and that he spent the whole of last night searching for information about the battlefields, so she's afraid he might overdo it. Meanwhile, Song-soo attacks the protagonist. The guy takes out his spear and reflects his blows, and Sun-soo is shocked and thinks that this is incredible because he is losing to a newbie, but he started it first. Song-soo understands that she is also strong, and one can say that he attacks him even stronger than those spiders. At this time, Lee Seo-jun looks at Sung-soo and thinks that he can do more than just show off. He is not only fast and attentive, but also a skilled swordsman. Well, if you compare it to his previous life, his skills haven't changed at all. The main character also thinks why he is seriously fighting with this child, but when he reflects his next attack, he understands that he has understood everything, because if his goal is the reward, then he will go to Yoon-hee next. This guy is a skilled liar, and he is sure that he would start threatening her with everything possible. And in the worst case, I would have tried to lure him into the squad, and then the future would have turned out exactly the same as that rebirth. so he must finish him off now so he can't do it again. Well, before the main character can finish his thought, he starts to feel ill. Lee Seo-jun immediately falls to the floor and wonders if he overdid it. The young man also does not understand why this had to happen now. Song-soo understands that this guy swung at him so hard, and he probably overdid it with magic, so he was lucky. But at that very moment, he caught himself thinking about this and wondering what luck meant, because he would never admit that he almost lost to such a newbie. Maybe it's worth just putting him into eternal sleep and pretending that it happened by accident during training, and then donating money to hush up the situation. He is confident that he will get out of this unscathed, after which he swings his sword. But at that very moment, someone knocks the weapon out of his hands, and it turns out to be a holy ball. The man grabs the guy by the hand and claims that despite the fact that this place is intended for fighting, his swing of the ball went beyond all limits, so he should get out of there right now. At this time, Yoon-hye and Hee-yeon approach the place and immediately scream out to Lee Seo-jun. Hee-yeon asks if Grandpa left so quickly because he wanted to fight Lee Seo-jun. The man replies that he's not going to, and Yoon-hye runs up to the protagonist and asks if he's okay, as he's completely pale. The guy replies that he is, and that he's just a little overworked. The holy ball at this time claims that when you put all your effort into driving your opponent into a corner, you yourself end up in it. Dedicating himself entirely to training is great, but he shouldn't forget about rest either. If they need the battlefield, he will let them use it later. But what Yoon-hye thanks him for? Lee Seo-jun understands that the holy swordsman would not act with evil intent, but he is a little worried when he remembers his past life. A little while later, the protagonist takes a break. Yoon-hye asks if he's feeling better, to which he replies that thanks to Yoon-hye everything is fine. The guy realizes that he slept for 2 full days, and now he needs to think about the fight. He also wonders if any notifications from the system appear on the log, like in the dungeon. He also asks if the girl carefully read his notes, and replies that of course. After all, he described everything very clearly, so she thinks that they will cope without problems. He also asks where Sol is, and his interlocutor replies that Hee-yeon will take care of her outside. Then Yoon-hye replies that they can concentrate on the task, and suggests that they get it over with quickly, because he already misses Sol-ah. The guy claims that she is so jealous of Hee-yeon. After all, she's probably having a lot of fun with Sol-ae right now. The girl at this time uses her powers and claims that this mother is a bear, and the strict one is Papa Bear, and the other bear is Sol. He. Yeon is shocked and wonders if the toys can really move on their own. The girl insists that the rabbit is Aunt Hee-young. A little while later, the protagonist understands. Judging by the magical glow, they finished off all the monsters. Yoon-hye claims that there is no one left on her side either. And then the guy suggests getting rid of the undead bodies and going to Sol-ae. A little while later, they turn to Hee-yeon and claim that they have returned, and also ask if everything is okay. The girl replies that something strange happened, and she is not yet sure whether it is worth asking them about it. After which, they see the girl using her powers, and Hee-yeon says that maybe she is a magician. After consulting with Yoon-hye, they decided to tell Hee-young about Sol-ae's abilities. Firstly, it would be stupid to deny it. And secondly, Hee-young is not the type to reveal other people's secrets, and the woman says that it's understandable. After which, she asks whether it is better to keep it a secret, to which her interlocutor replies that if she presses otherwise, the baby might have problems. And the Tower of Magicians is now actively searching for additional power. The Tower of Mages is a union of unique mages, and they are very rare, and also have incredible potential. In their previous life, they took advantage of their influence and took Sol-ae away. He tries to teach the girl to control her power in order to protect her from them. Hee-yeon asks if this means that their coming there also has something to do with it, after which she even says that she will go with them, because suddenly someone is hiding in the field. Their main character asks if she is sure. The woman replies that for Sol-ae, she is ready to do anything, and the more the better. And besides, she wants to take the opportunity to show off her new sword. A little while later, they are already heading to the battlefield. And when the little girl comes there, she says everything there is so shiny, and the man wonders if she's talking about magic. Ordinary people can't see it in the air. Sol-ah says she loves Vietnam there. It's so fresh. Lee Seo-jun notices the magical glow on the stone fading, and the girl says she feels much better. Lee Seo-jun immediately screams that they need to run to the exit, and when they take off, Tu Yunhai wonders why the siren sounded exactly when they entered the battlefield, but it signals the formation of a rift. But at that very moment, the exit is blocked by a pile of stones, and a message appears that the boss has appeared on the battlefield. A sudden quest with a rocky terrain boss has begun. Lee Seo-jun claims that this sound warns of the boss's appearance. The little girl turns to her father in surprise, and he tells Eunhee to stay as far away from the boss as possible because he is sure that she will be able to protect Seoul. And she is the fastest of them all. Lee Seo-jun understands that he had already made sure that there was still a lot of time before the boss would appear. And besides, they don't just appear out of nowhere. Maybe he sensed magic, and then the guy says that it is approaching, so let them disperse. The monster begins its attack, and the guy realizes that it is a mountain golem, a monster that heals wounds with stones. If they act hesitantly, they will only attract his attention and get hurt. They need to find a way to defeat him in one blow and find his core. But at that same moment, Lee Seo-jun notices Hee-yeon on the monster's other hand, and the girl points at something, after which the guy nods and understands that most often, the core of a mountain golem is located either on the back of the head or on the neck. If they rush, they will only anger him, so they must remain in their positions and simultaneously strike the core. But at that very moment, the earth shakes, and the guy wonders if it's an earthquake, but then he realizes that everything is wrong. After all, the golem had begun to move. Lee Seo-jun realized that, if it was drawn by magic, it would pursue the source of its radiation. Anything now? The guy strikes the golem's head. Hee-young asks what he is doing and whether he understands that he will draw his attention to himself. Lee Seo-jun responds that they must get rid of him before he notices Seul-ah, and they need to strike now and focus. Hee-yeon, she understands that she shouldn't rush like last time, otherwise she'll lose another ball, and she also needs to remember how it felt during training and hit the ball with absolute precision, after which the girl does so and realizes that she succeeded because she was able to cut it. But at that very moment, Lee Seo-jun grabs her, and the lady asks, "What's the matter?" Hee-yeon cries out that she got it right the first time so they don't have to rush anymore. But her interlocutor replies that he has not yet plunged into eternal sleep because the golem is alive and continues to move. His core is hidden not in the back of his head or neck, but somewhere else. Until they teach him to destroy his core, he will regenerate and attack again. But the girl wonders where else the core could be, and at that very moment, the two fall onto the golem's palm. When they notice that he raises his other palm, they understand that he wants to crush them with his hand, and there is nowhere to run. But at the same moment, someone else stops the golem's hand, and the guy thinks, "What's going on?" After which they see the ice bear. Meanwhile, Eunhee runs away with the baby and realizes they're safe there. Thanks to the efforts of Seo-jun Yi-hee, young they were able to escape from the golem, but now the guys are probably in danger. The girl turns to her mother and asks if this is a bad monster, and if her father and Aunt Rabbit are in danger. The woman replies that yes, that's why mom should help them, and then the little girl says that she will help too. The woman asks what she is talking about, but when she turns to the baby, she realizes that steam is coming out of her mouth. It sees that ice begins to appear behind the baby, and the girl uses her power, after which he creates something with her help, and her mother wonders what is going on, after which she sees him all the time as a baby lying on the floor. The woman runs up to her and screams for the girl to wake up, but then realizes that she has fallen asleep. And in front of her, Eunhee sees a huge bear created from ice. Lee Seo-jun, looking at the huge bear, wonders where it came from and whether it is magic. The protagonist claims that the golem's movement is currently limited, so they should take advantage of the opportunity to escape, to which his interlocutor replies that it's fine. The guy understands that he is sure that it was magic, and that he is the only one of them who is capable of casting spells. This is Seul-ah, after which he looks at the bear, who only winks. But at that very moment, the golem strikes him, after which the bear flies away, and the man thinks that this can't be. After all, this bear is just big and that's all, and he doesn't even know how to fight. The golem gets rid of him with one blow, but at the same moment, they see weapons in the bear's hands. The man wonders if he really created the weapon and started the confrontation. After which they fight with the golem, and Lee Seo-jun thinks that this is incredible because it's all thanks to the weapon. "Hey!" Yeon turns to Seo-jun and says that this ice bear reminds him of him, after which, with one precise movement, the bear knocks the cannonball out of the monster, and it shatters into pieces. after which everyone receives notifications that they have successfully defeated a boss called the Mountain Golem. And they also dealt with the unexpected quest a little while later. Young says on the phone that she'll take care of it. To ensure that no one finds out about what happened on the field, her interlocutor asks if she thinks this is possible. The woman tells them not to forget that she is the granddaughter of a holy swordsman, so they shouldn't worry, and the man says that's good because then they can count on her. Lee Seo-jun is okay, and if he is in any pain, to which he replies that yes, he got off with only light bruises, so she doesn't have to worry, and he thanks her for her concern. The guy also asks where Sol-A is now, and his interlocutor replies that she is sleeping, and the girl must be terribly tired. The man understands that Sol-A probably spent all her energy on witchcraft, but she never woke up after creating the ice bear. She didn't summon it, but created it herself, and usually uses her magic powers to summon it. But Sol-A was able to give birth to a new being, and summoning and creation are not even on the same level. His daughter must already be the most powerful person on the planet. At this time, Hee-young notices foreigners and realizes that they seem to be unfamiliar with her grandfather. The girl wonders why they came to the chambers of the Holy Swordsman Koryo. But at that moment, someone gets out of the car and asks for forgiveness, and also says that they must have been a little confused by his guards. The man also says that he does not need to talk to the lady and asks if she has a minute. A little while later, Lee Seo-jun approaches Sol-A and asks if she remembers that ice bear. When the little girl looks at him in bewilderment, the guy understands that she most likely created him unconsciously. Then he can't even understand where the magical powers came from, and it's unlikely that the body is under control, and they have already leveled the balance. The little girl claims that she wanted to punish this evil monster. The guy is shocked, wondering if everything is really as he thinks. But at that very moment, someone knocks on the door, and the guy asks if they have guests, then tells Yoon-hae that he'll open the door. Yeon calls him and asks where he is now. The guy replies that he is at home because someone has come to visit them, so he will call her back, but the girl tells him to wait. Of Magicians wants to see him, and most likely all the magical power emitted during the fight with the Mountain Golem was captured on the radar. Now they're searching the entire field and questioning the locals. The guy is in shock and doesn't even know what to say. He remembers events from his past life, after which a special quest appears in front of him, which indicates how Lee Sol-A's first misfortune began. He needs to protect Lee Sol-A from William Taylor. The boy is shocked, wondering if it's really him behind the door. But at that very moment, someone else turns to Seo-jun and asks if something is wrong. Lee Seo-jun looks at his wife's shaking hands and then says on the phone that he will think of something and they will call each other when all this is over. The man leans towards his daughter and claims that because of what happened on the field, people from the Tower of Magicians are looking for them, and he thinks that they came to them for a reason. The guy also understands that the longer they wait, the more suspicious they become, and all he can do is trust his feelings and try to resolve the situation. The guy turns to his daughter and claims that he wants to ask her for something. A short time later, someone thanks Lee Seo-jun and Yoo Yoon-hae for agreeing to help with the investigation. The man claims his name is William Taylor and that he came from the Mage's Tower. They must be a little surprised by his arrival, but they rely on their honesty and willingness to cooperate. The protagonist replies that it's fine. Then, he realizes that William Taylor is here. In his past life, he was a resident of the British branch of the Wizard's Tower. Of course, he doesn't know what position he occupies now, but he is sure that he is not an easy person. Someone else approaches the gentleman and claims that nothing strange was found in the house, and the main character understands that they are probably looking for some signs of magic. Luckily, they didn't notice Sol-A. They almost got caught. A short time later, the man turned to his daughter and said that the villain behind the door wanted to take her body. He also asked if the girl knew that she had magic, after which he asked her to hide it as far away as possible and asked if she could. The little girl then looked at her father with determination, and Yoon-hee asked what he meant. Her interlocutor claimed that if his assumptions were correct, then the baby's magic was coming out from under control because she couldn't control me. The man claims that he and Mrs. Yu recently passed an exam with high scores and experienced a sudden breakdown, to which the protagonist replies that everything is correct. William also asks if they have recently visited the chambers of the swordsman Saint Koryo, to which he replies that they have. Ayun Hye is shaking all over, after which the main character puts his hand on hers, and Max continues his interrogation and asks if they defeated the boss on the battlefield, to which he replies that no, because Hee Young helped them. Then, Max suggests getting down to business, since they had recorded a certain amount of magical radiation in the field and found an unidentified object. The man hands over the photographs and asks if they know anything about this. Lee Seo-jun realizes that these are the remains of an ice bear after the destruction of Mount Glaeby. The bear fell apart and began to slowly melt, so it seems they tracked it. The guy claims that, despite all the desire to help him, nothing is known about this. William, observing these two, realizes that they both emit magic, but they do not look like they are magicians themselves, and they must have made a mistake, after which the man says that it is good and thanks them for their help in the investigation. A short time later, they contact Hee Yeon. The woman desperately turns to Sol-ah. The little girl also turns to Auntie Bunny, who claims she almost fell into an eternal sleep from excitement. Yoonhee replies that she did too, because she thought it was the end. Sol-A was also a little scared, but it's good that everything is okay now. Yoonhee says that since everything is all right, they shouldn't worry about the Mage Tower anymore. Lee Seo-jun suggests thinking about it tomorrow, because the morning is wiser. But at that same moment, the man pays attention to the quest status and realizes that it is still listed as incomplete, meaning Sol-A is still in danger. They got rid of the immediate threat, but if William Taylor had noticed the girl's magic, he would have been able to resist him. But he's only slightly stronger than a normal person, so he wouldn't be able to stop him. He also understands that if it had been anyone else in his place, he would have lost anyway. Mage Tower, but the entire world could start hunting the baby. He ignored this fact, thinking he was stronger and smarter than everyone else. That same evening, the boy looks at his family and realizes that he must do everything possible to become even stronger. He hardly used the knowledge he acquired in his past life, but now is not the time to worry about it. First, he has to find this lady, and a week later, an advertisement comes on in one of the cars, where the woman claims that she will take the opportunity to prove the indispensability of their products. People driving in the car claim that the advertisement just turned on. Her interlocutor asks if the lady can handle it alone, and she replies that yes, this is not her first time in the dungeon, and besides, she only goes there for commercial purposes. A little while later, the woman gets out of the car, and everyone says that it is Ha Iram. She really is the daughter of a high-tech company director, and you just have to look at her gear because it's simply incredible. The woman loads one of the pistols and seems to be demonstrating it. She also realizes it's time to get started and enters the Ganghwamun Station dungeon. People understand that there is not a single monster in the area and wonder if someone has already cleared everything out. She has a firearm and protective gear, and besides, she's in excellent shape, so why can't she shake this strange feeling? It's strange that there's not a soul there, and there are no monsters at all. But at that same moment, she notices someone else and realizes that there is another hunter there, and he probably arrived before her. The woman understands that she will ask if there are monsters there, after which she asks for forgiveness, but the hunter immediately runs at her, after which he is pushed and wounds her with a knife. People point guns at him, and when you see someone else there, you say what crazy idiots they are, because they didn't find any monsters there and decided to fart on a man. The lady also understands that no matter whose evil intent it was, she'll put everyone into eternal sleep when she gets out of there. But she is still not sure that she will succeed. And at that very moment, someone jumps on one of the villains, after which they all break his back with a blow. The woman immediately points a gun at the man. It turns out to be the main character, and he just watches as one of the guys writhes in pain. The guy wonders if this guy has already passed out, and his colleague screams, "Where did this guy come from? And is he really this girl's security guard? Well, let him mind his own business." After which, this man tries to wound the main character, but he stops him with a spear and then hits him in the neck, and the villain passes out. The woman watches the guy in shock and asks who he is. The young man replies that he was just passing by. The young man realizes that Hi-Tech is the most famous weapons manufacturer in Korea. This company provides all kinds of hunting gear, weapons armor, and consumables. The girl he saved is the company's director, Ha Yi-ram. The lady looks at the guy's statistics and claims that she was a little doubtful when he said that he has a daughter, and therefore he is not her knight in shining armor, but a married man with a child. His daughter's mother is his classmate named Yu Yun-hee. The guy replies that, yes, they're not married, but he likes someone else. He also exclaims, "Is she testing him?" His interlocutor replies that he's willing to answer, but knows when to stop. She also tells the guy to sit down and insists that he told her everything himself. She called him to thank him because he saved her life. The woman also claims that she pays generously and also offers him to give her account number, but the guy replies that it is not worth it. His interlocutor tells him not to be shy, as she'll give him more if he wants, but he says it's really not worth it. He thinks it's a tempting offer, frankly, and the sheer amount of money is simply mind-blowing as the woman has already entered 800 million won. Seo Jun understands he can invest it profitably, but now the guy insists he didn't do it for the money. He understands that if he accepts this sum, he and Ha Yi-ram will never see each other again. The woman insists the guy isn't that simple and says, "Okay, if he doesn't want to take the money, will he accept the gift?" Lee Seo-jun asks if she's talking about the gift, and she replies, "Yes, and she has 2 gifts." A little while later, the guy asks if she's talking about entering a dungeon, and the woman tells him to read the description and decide whether he'll accept the offer. The Tiger's Lair is an unexplored dungeon, and a new monster has been discovered there, and they also selected hunters willing to go there. But one problem arose, after which, the woman points to the photo and claims that this happened to the team since 5 people supposedly fell into eternal sleep. This photo was found on the film of one of the missing people, and when someone went there, he asked where everyone was, after which they screamed that they were there and asked for help. The hunter understood that there were 2 people there and told them to wait because he was coming. But what the guy could see in front of him was the last frame. The young man looking at the photo wonders if it is really white fur, and the woman claims that she wanted to go there herself, but because of what happened, she cannot. The guy asks if he needs to find out about this monster and asks when exactly his help will be needed, but the woman tells him to wait and asks if he is going to go alone. She also wonders if he is not himself since several people died there, but the young man asks what is wrong with Togo since he is ready, and the lady wants to test him to find out what he is capable of so he can handle it himself. When the guy leaves, the woman watches him from the window, and the security guard asks if he can handle it alone, to which the lady replies that yes, he wanted it himself, and the young man thinks that this is a test. And it also seems like these aren't just words. He really is someone. A short time later, the protagonist returns home. At that very moment, the little girl joyfully greets her dad, and the boy realizes that home has never seemed such a warm place. Upon returning there, all the fatigue seemed to evaporate because he saw his sweet daughter and beautiful wife. Well, maybe it would be better to say a beautiful ex-girlfriend, but it still sounds strange, so the guy understands that he should skip this point. Then the little girl says that Daddy smells delicious, and the guy turns to Yoon-hae and asks if he smells like something, after which the girl says that it's worth taking a look. She approaches the main character and sniffs his clothes, and the guy realizes that the last time he felt her so close was in his past life. But she is so cute. The girl immediately asks if this is women's perfume, after which he keeps saying that Seo Jun doesn't wear perfume. Meanwhile, the guy remembers how the woman told him that if he's with the wrong idiots, he should help her. And when they went further, she said that she would beat the young man if he did anything wrong, to which he replied that he would not do it, because if he plunged into eternal sleep, he would have to leave his lovely daughter. Now the main character thinks that maybe this is the matter, and the little girl asks her daddy if he really has a mistress, after which the guy wonders where she got such words. Yoon-hee tells Lee Seo-jun to look into her eyes, and the guy at that moment screams that he is not guilty of anything, after which the lady asks if this is really so. The young man invites her to look into his eyes and asks if they can lie. In his thoughts, he swears that he has no one and that it's a lie. And Yoon-hee looks intently into his eyes as if looking into his soul, after which, with a smile on her face, she says that it seems he is telling the truth. She also tells the guy not to be so nervous because she has something to say to him, but her interlocutor understands that it seemed like she had a lot to say. Meanwhile, the little girl turns to her father and tells him he's alive, and the boy realizes the television is the devil's toy. A couple of days later, the boy finds himself at the entrance to a dungeon called the Tiger's Lair. The young man also realizes that there's no one there, because the clearing rights belong to Ha-Yiram. At this point, one of the workers approaches Mr. Lee Seo-jun and claims that these are his consumables. The worker also apologizes, but claims that the gentleman did not ask for a flashlight and claims that he can give him his own if needed. But the guy replies that it is not worth it because he does not need it. Afterwards, he takes the backpack and claims to be clearing the tiger's lair. When he enters, a notification appears informing him that he's entered an uncleared dungeon and that this is the beginning of a special quest. It also states that a dungeon called the Tiger's Lair must be cleared. The young man understands that the main characteristic of this dungeon is it's pitch dark, and even the brightest flashlight won't help in such a place. But he's still confident in his abilities. The guy looks at his hand and realizes that he didn't think he would need it here. But it's a night snowflake. It provides night vision, and he acquired it in the hidden dungeon he and Kang Dae-ho cleared. He puts the snowflake in his mouth and realizes it's time to use it. Of monsters attacks him, but the young man quickly swings his spear dealing with them all. The guy also understands that it is strange that those hunters have fallen into eternal sleep and that they only take on monsters by quantity, and it is quite possible to deal with them alone. They don't look anything like the monster he saw in the photo, and they are quite weak, but there are a lot of them. At that moment, the boy notices that the monsters have stopped moving and wonders why they're frozen. At that moment, he hears a voice asking for help. The young man understands that Ha-Yiram said that they supposedly fell into eternal sleep, which means that this is not yet a confirmed fact, and there is also a high chance that they are still alive. The boy puts down his backpack and realizes he needs to approach carefully. Judging by the monster's behavior, they're somewhere around here. He opens the door and realizes he remembers the last recording on the camera, being the screams of the dead hunter, meaning the monster reacts to sounds or vibrations. But when the guy opens the door, the monster turns to him and claims that he has come, after which he opens his mouth at him. The main character immediately strikes him, and this monster screams that it hurts, but the guy understands that it's not about the sound, because this monster operates according to a different scheme. He simply lures hunters there and devours them, and also imitates the voices of the people he's consumed to lure in new victims, and his name is Devourer. The monster, meanwhile, wonders how the guy knew since he can see. His boyfriend realizes that this is the same monster about which he could hardly find information in his past life, after which the monster strikes, and her hours getting out from under the fragments, realizes that he is already prepared to plunge into eternal sleep. And this monster is faster than he thought. Well, the main character doesn't have time, but he remembers how the monster deals another blow, and the young man realizes that he managed to avoid the blow with the help of his spear, but his body must be quite weak. He just needs to find the right moment and deliver the decisive blow, but when the young man is about to attack, the monster begins to climb the wall and says that he should be spared because he does not want to plunge into eternal sleep. Lee Seo-jun realizes that this monster imitates the voices of those who have fallen into eternal sleep, and at the same moment, he hears the voice of his daughter, who is talking to her mom and dad. After which, the guy notices that this monster is forming something on his back and thinks what he is doing. When he opens his mouth, many faces appear from it, turning to Daddy. Lee Seo-jun is shocked and wonders if he is really figuring out his weakness, after which the little girl turns to her daddy and says that she is so scared. And she also asks him not to leave her. The protagonist understands that he shouldn't react, and his consciousness understands this, but he's still unable to control the emotions inside, after which the monster opens its mouth and strikes. But when the main character remains unharmed, the face on the monster asks if Daddy is still alive, to which the guy replies that he prepared before coming there. A while back, a woman claimed her second gift was a suit, a limited edition piece of equipment not readily available. It not only increases mana, but also provides cold resistance. But the suit's main advantage lies elsewhere. If imbued with magic, it becomes resistant to any armor. Afterwards, the man begins crushing the monster's teeth, and then everyone impales him, claiming he's overstepped his bounds. When the monster is neutralized, the man realizes he held out until the very end. Therefore, it is necessary to finish him off before he opens his mouth again. But at that very moment, the monster again speaks in the voice of the protagonist's daughter and claims that he hates her dad. This illusion is also interested in why Dad did this to her, but she is so unhappy because he will never understand what it is like and will never be able to understand how much pain she experienced. The girl immediately claims that she despises and hates him, but at the same moment, the guy pierces this illusion and claims that she is not the real Soul A. Even if he deserves such words addressed to him, he wants to hear them from Soul herself, but they are from some pathetic copy, and he does not want to hurt his daughter anymore. At the same time, someone else claims that he understood everything, so let Lee Seo-jun never forget that feeling. When the young man looks up, he sees a woman. She tells Lee Seo-jun that he mustn't forget this feeling, and the young man, shocked, asks how she knows his name and who she is. His interlocutor replies that she cannot answer this question, after which she apologizes, and the guy asks why she is there, then to which the woman replies that she is there to change his prize. Lee Seo-jun wonders if this is really about the reward for the first cleanup, and she changed it, but she still doesn't understand how. At this time, the woman touches his hand and tells the guy to use this only in extreme cases because he cannot lose himself, after which she says goodbye to him and states that since she has found out his location, but before she could finish a message, arrived saying that he was the first to clear the dungeon called the Tiger's Lair, and that he had completed a special quest. Therefore, he will be given a reward for the first cleanup. A short time later, the boy returns home and sees his daughter with a smile on her face. But at that very moment, he remembers the illusion in the dungeon. The man looks at his daughter and wonders if Sol Ah was waiting for him before returning to the past, and if she must have been terrified to sit alone at night. The man doesn't want to admit it, but the mimic was right, because he can't understand what Sol Ah went through. So at least this time, he doesn't want to make her suffer again. And the man says that Dad is there, and then apologizes to his family for coming so late. At this point, Yunho notices a ring on his pinky, and a short while later, the guy shows it to Hayi Rame. The woman wonders if this is really an ordinary ring, since it's not even an artifact but a simple trinket, so she wonders how such a thing is even possible. Her interlocutor replies that he's also perplexed, and the woman says that if that's the case that puts her in a difficult position, Lee Seo-jun asks why. And the woman replies that the ring is for clearing the dungeon, which she tasked him with. The guy asks if items don't have a chance to drop, and she also paid him, but the woman says that he should consider it an advance, because for a job well done, he is entitled to a much larger reward. She also wonders if he really doesn't need anything, and the guy understands that anyone else in her place would not have insisted so much, and perhaps the woman truly believes that he deserves better. After which, the young man says that actually there is something Yoon-hee is at the training ground at this time, and when she fires another arrow, she realizes that Lee Seo-jun has been acting strange lately. He smells like women's perfume, and he wears a ring that she has never seen before. But it is so ridiculous to think about such a thing. There is nothing between them, and it is unknown whether Seo-jun proposed to her because he still has some feelings. Or maybe it's just for Soleil's sake. She can only guess what's in his heart, and the girl wonders why it bothers her so much. But at that very moment, someone approaches her from behind and asks what's bothering her. The girl screams in fright and claims he scared her. The lady also tells him not to sneak up like that again, after which the guy apologizes. The girl asks why he is there since he has a meeting scheduled today, to which he replies that he just returned from it and he has a gift for Yoon-hye. The girl claims that this is the same suit that he has too, which he replies that it is, and that it is the so-called universal one, so let her touch the fabric. Yoonho looks at the guy and thinks that she wonders when he managed to get himself in great shape, but he really pumped up his muscles. The guy asks if she can see, but if she pours mana into this fabric, it becomes as hard as metal armor. And the girl says it's incredible. Lee Seo-jun claims that the suit looks like it's made of advanced materials, but people wonder what kind of fool would give a girl armor, to which he replies that he did it in the hopes that it would protect her from injury. Yoon-hye smiles at the same moment and says that she knows, after which she thanks him. The young man understands that he is very glad that she liked it, and it's cool that she managed to get a second suit, although she had to take on a new task as payment. And then the young man says that he has something else for Inkyo. The boy understands that the small dungeon is best tackled in groups of 5 or 10. Trying to tackle it alone isn't the best idea, so they decide to form a team. The boy says that some of them are seeing each other for the first time, so he suggests they get to know each other first. One of the leaders claims that her name is Go Hee Young. She is 22 years old, and she uses a ball. Yoo Eun-hee also introduces herself and claims to be 27 years old and also shoots a bow. Another member of their squad is named Kang Dae-ho. He is 29 years old, and he fights hand-to-hand. Another lady claims that her name is Ha Yi-ram, and she also uses, but then the girl interrupts her speech and claims that she uses everything. The protagonist understands that he assembled this team himself, but still cannot be amazed by the absurdity of its composition. Although they all lack experience for now, in the future, they will be very famous, and the young man wonders whether he is even worthy of their company. At this time, the woman asks who will be the main one, and one of them claims that there is an ideal candidate among them, after which they all look at the main character. The shocked young man asks why they're all staring at him, and a little while later, they're already moving out to clear the small dungeon Hee Yeon. She claims she didn't even know the state Lee Seo-jun's brother saved Ha Yi-ram. The woman replies that he just happened to be passing by. Oni asks why he's always wandering around, to which he replies that he's saving lives, and wonders if that's a bad thing. Kang Dae-ho says his wife keeps him in a tight grip, which makes her a little embarrassed, but Lee Seo-jun says that's not true at all, after which they find themselves in a dungeon. A message immediately pops up, telling them to clear a dungeon called the Ancient Tomb of the Forgotten. Kang Dae-ho skillfully scatters enemies with his fists, but one is replaced by several, and the man asks if there aren't too many monsters to begin with. Lee Seo-jun states that he is leaving support to the rear and offers Hee Yeon to help him with something, after which the two of them cut down the monsters. When the guy puts one of them into eternal sleep, a notification suddenly comes that the king's ring has absorbed the soul of the monster, and the number of accumulated souls is the same. At that moment, someone turns to Lee Seo-jun and says there's another monster behind him, after which the boy says he sees it and realizes that now is not the time to deal with notifications. He immediately plunges the monsters into eternal sleep and also turns to Ha Yi-ram, offering to do at least something, but the woman replies that she cannot because the vanguard has mixed with the monsters. And the guy claims that this means he should have shot before, after which the woman apologizes and claims that the rifle appears to be semi-automatic. Lee Seo-jun thinks, what kind of Morocco is this? And there are too many enemies there. And not only that, they are also armed and they won't last long without good protection. Then the guy shouts that they'll push back the monsters themselves and asks for everyone's attention. He turns to Hee Yeon, telling her to clear a path for retreat, and then does something, saying it is ready. Lee Seo-jun realizes that everything is perfect, after which he turns to Dae-ho, who also begins to act, after which he destroys several monsters with his foot pushing the rest back. The guy says that everything is fine and suggests retreating. He also turns to Ha Yi-ram and asks if she can shoot now. The woman begins to use magic and claims that she does not need to be asked twice, after which she fires her weapon and screams for these monsters to lie down. With her bullets, she destroys many monsters, and Dae-ho says in surprise that she dealt with this crowd alone. Hee Yeon says that the lady's fighting style is no less unique than Dae-ho's. The woman asks if her interlocutor claims that hunters rarely use guns. The guy also asks if Yoon-hye taught him that firearms are downright bad against monsters, to which the girl replies that yes, she probably pours mana into the bullets. Her interlocutor replies that it is unlikely, since in order to fill a weapon with mana, you need to touch it directly, and it is obviously difficult to do something like that with cartridges and magazines. People answer that this is why all her ammunition is made from materials found in dungeons, and they are very effective against monsters. Dae-ho, he says that this material is very expensive, and his interlocutor replies that this is exactly the case, because the fact that she shoots hundreds of slaughtered animals means so. However, the lady interrupts them and asks what good money is if you don't spend it. Dae-ho says admiringly that there is nothing surprising there, because she is the daughter of a tycoon, and the main character understands that among other things, he needs to check something, after which he pierces the half-dead monster with a spear, and he receives a notification that he has defeated the Draugr and that the king's ring has absorbed the monster's soul, and the guy understands that he knew it all along because he wasn't imagining it. This ring is activated when he plunges monsters into eternal sleep, after which the guy thinks what it is, because he has never heard of this ring even in his past life, and it looks like it is an artifact, but he has no idea how to use it. Perhaps something will happen if he pours mana into it, but at that very moment, someone asks his brother what he is thinking about. The guy replies that he just wanted to check something and thinks there are too many prying eyes there. A short time later, they enter another section of the dungeon and fight there. Hayuram understands that they are slowly getting along, and at first she was worried that most of them were still newbies, but everything is going surprisingly smoothly. The lady also takes notice of Lee Seo-jun and realizes that without his wise leadership, nothing would have happened, and that he is a more capable leader than she expected. A short time later, they approach the boss's room, and the lady claims she has the feeling they've stumbled upon some kind of ruins or something. Her companion claims the entire dungeon is one large crypt, so the similarities are unsurprising. Lee Seo-jun suggests entering, slowly keeping their guard up. They enter the room, and Dae-ho, looking around, claims the coffin in the middle looks suspicious. His companion claims she thought so too, after which the man says the boss is probably inside. But the guy replies that he is not in it, after which he suggests that everyone disperse, because he notices holes in the floor, and at the same moment, spears jump out of them. Lee Seo-jun. He says that the real boss is right in front of the coffin, after which the coffin's protector begins to swing, and the main character screams for Hee-young to be careful. The girl barely reflects this attack, after which Ha-iram helps her by shooting at the helmet of this monster, but she is more easily bounced off it. The woman asks if her pain can't penetrate the armor, and her interlocutor claims that all his armor is made of underground metal, so he needs to aim for the core. Yeonhee also fires an arrow, and the guy realizes that the core is not in the neck, then it must be either in the head or in the heart, but when he is about to attack the monster, it intercepts his spear. Lee Seo-jun understands that this monster has a crazy reaction, and when he turns around, he realizes that he is not alone, because Hee-yeon is already jumping on the monster from behind, and then pierces him right in the heart, but the monster does not react to this in any way. The guy wonders if the cannonball is still there, and if he should add it somewhere else, his plan has failed. He also turns to Hee-yeon, but she cries out that she can't reach her ball. She also screams why this piece of iron is so strong, and he swings at the main character, and the guy understands that they rushed in vain. At that very moment, Dae-ho runs up to them, and hitting the monster, screams at the two, after which he attacks his hand and squeezes it with all his might. He also screams that he cannot hold out for so long, and Lee Seo-jun understands that even Dae-ho cannot push back this monster, and if the core is not in the neck or the heart, then only the head remains, and if so, he will release the spear, and also pour mana into the arrow and strike. But when the guy does this, he realizes that this core is too deep, and at the same moment, the monster grabs his hand and pulls him away. But at that very moment, the monster stops and looks at something, and the guy wonders what he is staring at, and whether the monster is really looking at the ring. But at that very moment, an arrow flies past the main character and pierces the monster almost completely, after which he loosens his grip and then falls completely. Someone from the squad asks if they have defeated this monster, to which the guy replies that it looks like it, and then they have to message that they have defeated the Guardian of the Forgottens. And also, the king's ring absorbed the soul of the defeated enemy, and the guy thinks what it was. The message also states that the number of accumulated souls is now 87, and the young man wonders if it is really that many. But before entering the boss room, there were only 37, and it turns out that he was given as many as 50 souls for it. It turns out that the stronger the opponent, the more souls are given for him. And Hee-young says how strange this is, after which the guy asks what happened, and his interlocutor claims that if it was a boss, then they should have cleared the dungeon. But if that's true, where are the quest completion notifications? Lee Seo-jun realizes that if he thinks about it, nothing really happened. But that's odd, because he was sure the guard was the boss. At the same moment, the coffin begins to move, and the main character is shocked and wonders why the coffin opens, and then someone else climbs out of it. The young man understands that in his past life, he was always closed, but at the same moment, the monster that crawled out of the coffin asks why it is with the guy. Lee Seo-jun thinks his words are automatically translated into his native language. The other team members wonder what he said to her, And if it's actually speech, the guy wonders if he's the only one who understands him. At the same moment, the monster claims that it is too bright there, after which the light disappears throughout the dungeon. Lee Seo-jun understands that they still have little experience in unexpected situations, but at the same moment, Dae-ho notices something flying behind him and screams for his brother to be careful. At the same moment, the protagonist repels the attack of this monster and realizes that he is so strong, and his interlocutor offers to give him the ring, because a mere mortal has no right to own it. The main character wonders if he is really talking about the ring again, and if he really needs it, because he doesn't even understand what this thing is. Hyeram at this time launches a light cannon, and when they turn around, they see another guard, and the woman in shock asks if there is really another one there. Lee Seo-jun tells them to deal with him themselves, and when the lady asks what about him, the guys claim that he will restrain the second one. This monster claims that the young man is acting rather self-confident, after which Lee Seo-jun pushes him away. He understands that this monster is head and shoulders above the guards, and he had to spend almost all his mana to push him back, so he won't be able to hold out for long. The monster strikes again and tells the boy to hand over the ring. The young man begins to wonder if perhaps the master will stop attacking if he agrees to give him the ring, but then he realizes there's no point in negotiating with the monsters. When he lands another blow, the boy realizes things are bad, because his defense is flawless and he can barely parry the attacks. One wrong move or one miscalculation, and he's dead. But then the main character realizes that this is impossible, because if he falls into eternal sleep, then he will not be able to return home to Seoul-ah. And he has no desire to allow her future to repeat itself. At that moment, a message appears in front of him, asking if he would like to use the king's ring. The guy wonders what it is, and whether this ring has worked, but he knew that in Lebanon, mana activates it, after which the young man screams that he wants to use it. The message says that he needs to choose a number of souls to absorb, and the guy realizes that he has no idea what this means, but this ring is his last hope. After which he cries out that he wants to use all the souls from the message. It is indicated that he used the king's ring, and the number of souls absorbed is 87. So he receives a temporary boost to his strength and a temporary boost to his mana reserves. The young man then rushes forward with his spear, and the monsters barely manage to dodge it. The boy realizes his body is vibrating with energy and is overflowing with mana, which was almost gone a moment ago. The notification said the bow is temporary, so he needs to hurry. If he doesn't put the monsters into eternal sleep before the effect wears off, then even teamwork won't save them, which means he'll deal with it sooner. When the monster strikes, the young man jumps deftly, after which the spear breaks the monster's mask, and then he screams out, "What an impudent bastard the guy is!" Lee Seo-jun realizes that the monster seems to be losing patience, and no matter how fast his attacks are, his emotions are slowing them down. At this point, the monster screams that the guy gave him this ring, and the young man realizes that emotions make him predictable, after which he dodges the attack and hits the monster's hand. When he bends, the young man begins to see where his core is, and understands that this is his heart, after which he pierces his skin but stumbles upon a barrier made of mana, and understands that in this case he will also rely on it. And then he still pierces the core of this monster. The rest of the team at this time deal with the guard, and they receive a notification that they were the first to clear the dungeon called the Ancient Tomb of the Forgottens. Lee Seo-jun sees a notification that his strength is returning to normal, and his mana reserves are also returning to normal. The king's ring has absorbed the soul of the defeated monster, and the number of accumulated souls is now 100. After which, a notification also arrives that the king's ring has absorbed a piece of his humanity. A little while later, the guy is already sitting in his room and looking at the ring, thinking what it means that humanity has been absorbed in the form of nothing much has changed, and he does not understand what is meant by humanity at all. Meanwhile, the little girl tells a story about how her grandfather came out and said he wouldn't give his granddaughter to them. Yuni says, "Wow, it seems like her grandfather loves Seoul-ah very much." Lee Seo-jun understands that when he sees the two of them together, he cannot help but smile. But when Eun-ho turns to him, he asks why he looks at them so indifferently. The guy asks what it is about when he looks at his reflection in the mirror, and thinks that it is quite strange, because usually in such a situation, it is difficult for him to hide his feelings, and he is always drawn to smile. So he doesn't understand what's going on, and why he can't express even a drop of emotion right now. He wonders if this is what humanity has absorbed, after which the little girl turns to her daddy, and he offers to hug her before bed, and the guy thinks that if he becomes hardened, bit by bit, to such an extent that he cannot even smile at the sight of Sola. And what if he loses the ability to feel? Then what should he do in that case? Now the man hugs his daughter and says that of course, and also wishes her good night. At the same moment, he receives notifications that he has restored a piece of his humanity. The guy wonders what kind of notification that was. Just now, and when he strokes his daughter's head, he receives another notification that he has restored a piece of his humanity. The main character thinks that he has long noticed that every person is healed near Sola, and wonders if it is really about her. The man addresses his daughter in a trembling voice, after which everyone hugs her, shouting that she is his lucky star, and the girl smiles in response. A little while later, someone in the office turns to his interlocutor and claims that he heard him looking for him. The other man replies that it's true, and without further ado has a couple of questions for Mr. Son Soo-hyun. The man asks if there are any questions for him about his interlocutor, who replies that he recently visited a guild called the Goryeo Sword House, and wonders if that's true. The guy replies that everything is correct, but his interlocutor asks if anything unusual happened during his visit. The young man thinks that he would prefer to forget about the events, the details of which he will try to extract from him, after which he asserts that unfortunately, no. He also asks if he can find out the purpose of his inquiry. His interlocutor notes that 2 days after his visit to the Goryeo Sword House, a massive mana surge occurred near that place. The guys answer that this is a common occurrence preceding the appearance of the field boss, and asks if this is not so. But his interlocutor replies that the volume of mana released is too great to connect these two events. Asks again what happened that day, after which his interlocutor offers to let him think about it, since he went there to discuss the reward for the cleanup with Go Hee-yun. But he remembers that there were 2 hunters there, and the magician asks if he means Mr. Lee and Miss Yu, to which he replies that yes, and he tried to discuss the issue he came with Lee So-chun, but unfortunately they did not come to an agreement, and he was forced to leave. William says it's clear, but his interlocutor insists he's afraid and has nothing more to tell him. However, at the same time, he claims there's another completely unimportant detail. There was another person in the Goryeo Sword House that day. The man wonders if there was anyone else there besides Mr. Lee and Miss Yu. His interlocutor replies that yes, and most likely it has nothing to do with the incident. But then when he arrived, Lee Seo-jun agreed to talk, but suggested going outside. Sung-soo asked why he should obey him, to which the boy replied that there was a child sleeping there and asked for understanding. His interlocutor asked if it was Go Hee-yun's child, to which the boy replied that it wasn't. It was his daughter. And now, Sung-soo claims that Lee Seo-jun's daughter was there. Meanwhile, the protagonist looks at the stone in his hand and wonders what to do with it. This stone significantly increases the physical abilities of the person who swallows it, but in exchange it erases a year of their life from their memory. The boy realizes he's the only one so lucky with the reward for clearing the tomb, but he knows it's definitely not for him to eat. Otherwise, he'll completely forget he's back in time. At that moment, someone else approaches the protagonist and asks what he's so lost in thought about. It turns out it's Eun-hee, and the girl apologizes and asks if she distracted him. Her interlocutor replies that no, and that all sorts of nonsense is just running through his head, after which he suggests it's better to say if she really wanted to talk to him about something. The lady then becomes a little embarrassed and asks if he wants to go somewhere to unwind, and her interlocutor asks if it's really out of the blue, to which the girl asks what's wrong with that, since they've both been working a lot lately, and sometimes they can relax. But her interlocutor claims that they have so many things to do, after which the girl asks him to think, and asks if it seems to him that Sol-ae has been acting strangely lately. Lee Seo-jun claims that she often calls and clings to them when they return home, and in general, she is a little spoiled. Understands something, and his interlocutor claims that the girl is only 5 years old, and you can't tell because she acts very maturely, but she feels that she is very lonely. Lee Seo-jun claims that this is also possible, and understands that he did everything for the well-being of his daughter, but never tried to see the world through her eyes. His parenting skills are far inferior to Yoon Hye's maternal instincts, after which the guy says, okay, and suggests that they go somewhere together. But the next day, it's raining outside. Lee Seo-jun claims the weather forecast said it would be sunny today, and it looks like entertainment is postponed. The little girl wonders if they're really going to go out and have fun, and her mother says they should have. But the weather outside is bad. The girl asks if the rain is keeping them from having fun, and the main character realizes that if they think about it, they don't have to be outside to have a good time, because they could go to a museum or a shopping center. At this time, the little girl goes to the window and screams for the rain to stop, after which they use their powers. At this time, William is interrogating other people, and one of them claims that he is not sure, but it seems like there was a loud bang, and then the building suddenly collapsed, and its ruins were already demolished. But then there was a big commotion. The man asks if the cause of the explosion has been determined, and his interlocutor replies that he doesn't know for sure and feels very sorry for the people who lived in that house, because a young single mother was listed there. The man realizes he's hit another dead end in his investigation, and his first suspects were Lee Seo-jun and Yoo Yoon-hee. However, their mana levels are normal, and the same goes for Go Hee-yeon and son, So-hyun. But then he doesn't understand who the culprit is, and whether it could be Mr. Lee's daughter. But then the man realizes that she is still too young, and looking at the sky, he understands that even the weather is not on his side. But at that very moment, the baby uses her magic, and the cloud immediately disperses, causing the man to go into shock and even drop his umbrella. The main character at this time also watches this in shock, and the little girl claims that the rain has stopped and asks if they can now go have fun. Lee Seo-jun, observing his daughter, realizes she looks better than she did with the ice bear. And does this mean that magic of this level is a mere trifle for her? This girl is his daughter, but the depth of her gift is incomprehensible to him, and yet there had to be a big surge of mana, and if William Taylor is still in South Korea, then they should provide themselves with an alibi as quickly as possible, after which the man suggests going for a walk. A little while later, they find themselves at the zoo, and the guy orders 2 adults and 1 ticket for a kindergartner. The little girl immediately screams that she is not little anymore, but the man offers to go look at what is written on the sign, to which the little girl replies that there are kindergartners there from 3 to 5 years old. The man says that she is a good girl because she can already read Korean and asks if she is not a child prodigy, to which the girl replies that she is, after which the man asks how old she is, to which she replies that she is 5. After which he asks where 5-year-olds go, and she answers that they go to kindergarten, and the man claims that he thinks all children want to grow up faster. He also suggests that the little girl stand next to her mother because her father wants to take a picture of them, and then he screams so that they come closer, and also tells the beauty to smile and also say cheese. Yoon-hee asks if Lee Seo-jun has always been into photography, and her interlocutor replies that today is such a beautiful day that he would like to take photos as a keepsake, and he wants to capture the moment. His interlocutor replies that since that's the case, let these 2 also stand and take a photo of them, after which the 2 smile and the guy asks if they left. Well, after which Yoon-hee shows them a photo and asks why. So June is acting like a little boy. She also asks where Sol-a got the horn on her head, after which the man smiles, and the little girl, almost crying, asks her mother if a horn really grew on her head. The woman replies that no, and that it's just daddy making a joke, after which the little girl turns to him irritably and becomes offended. She also asks why he's acting like a little girl, and the man asks her what she's talking about. Unnie watching, this cannot hold back her laughter, and the little girl claims that for the first time she forgives him, after which her mother claims that Sol-a is so kind, and the girl asks if this is true. Lee Seo-jun, he claims everyone has turned against him, and Yoon-hee says he deserves it, and there's no point in making fun of the child. At that moment, the little girl turns to her mother and asks for her phone as she wants to take a photo too, after which the girl tells them to get closer, and for mommy to smile. Yoon-hee asks with a smile if she's imitating Seo-jun, and he says it's so cute. The girl also tells the 2 to move closer to each other, and the guy at the same moment approaches Yoon-hee, and the little girl screams that it's okay and let them stand like that. The woman asks if he's too close, and the guy asks if that's true, after which he replies that he probably isn't. They look at the photo. To Yoon-hae notices a rock on her head and asks where it came from, to which the guy replies that she should never let her guard down. A little while later, they head off to see the other animals, and the girl notices pink chicks, which her mother claims are flamingos. They then approach the giraffes, and the woman asks if the girl knows what the animals are called to, which she replies, giraffes. Afterwards, they head to the games, and then to the elephant. The little girl claims the gray elephant has a nose like a trumpet, and Lee Seo-jun realizes they seem to be having fun and can't even believe the day has come when they can enjoy a walk together. In the past, he couldn't even dream of something like this, and this is practically a family vacation. Meanwhile, Yoon-hee asks passersby if they could take a picture of her. Lee Seo-jun asks if they're doing it again, since they've already taken a ton of photos. But the woman replies that they don't have one together yet, and asks if he thinks he needs at least one together. After which she also tells Seo-jun to come over to them, and the little girl also tells her dad to sit in the middle. The man immediately goes over to them and realizes that this is it. He missed out on so many happy moments in his past life. After which they take a photo. A little while later, they're already heading home, and Lee Seo-jun is carrying his daughter on his shoulders, while the woman claims she slept the entire way home. The protagonist says she's tired from the long walk, but she has him. A professional baby carrier, Yoon-hee, says he wishes he treated her the same way he treats the baby, after which the man claims he has no excuse and apologizes. His interlocutor asks why he suddenly became so serious, since she was only joking. Lee Seo-jun insists that nothing should be taken for granted. But when the elevator door opens, Yoon-hee worried turns to Lee Seo-jun. The protagonist asks what happened, but when he sees who's standing at their door, he's shocked. The man asks what kind of meeting this is and addresses the three of them by name. A little while later, they are already sitting in the living room and asking how they can help Mr. Taylor. The man says that he came to talk about a recent incident as an extremely sharp change in weather has been recorded in this region. It was raining, but suddenly the clouds parted and the sun shone. The man understands that mana can be hidden a mere trifle for a first-class mage capable of easily bending it to his will. If the girl really is involved, that explains everything. She managed to hide the mana from him only because he checked it by eye. However, if he touches her, the truth will inevitably come to the surface, so he will not miss the opportunity to touch this child and find out for sure. The man claims that today's incident and the previous one have two common circumstances. Firstly, there was a large mana release, and secondly, Mr. Lee and Miss Yu were at the epicenter of events, after which the man asks what they think about this. The guy realizes he needs to express his emotions and claims that, frankly, he thinks the rifts are to blame. The boss of the rocky area appeared prematurely ignoring the respawn schedule, and a rift suddenly appeared nearby, so he's hesitant. These two events occurred independently. He also wonders if the strange occurrences he's investigating could be related to the anomalies and their origins. The man replies that the rift appeared quite a while ago, and it would be strange, and it only became apparent 2 months later. To which the guy replies that, I know, and he's probably wrong. William looks at Lee Seo-jun and realizes there's no hint of tension on his face. His eyes aren't darting and his voice isn't shaking, so maybe he's not really involved, or maybe it's a clever bluff. After which the man offers to talk about the House of the Sword Koryo, but his interlocutor replies that they have already discussed this topic, but William says that at that time they hid something from him, because it turns out that there was a child with them then. Eun-hee shudders from this, and the man realizes that they are caught, after which he asks if they were together with their daughter at the moment the rift occurred. Lee Seo-jun replies that Dano asks what happened to Togo, and his interlocutor claims that he is afraid that the girl might have picked up some strange object on the street. Lee Seo-jun asks what he's talking about, and the man replies that this happens as it's not uncommon for children to find lost artifacts and unknowingly cause incidents. Well, after which he also says that if they don't mind, he will check. However, when the man reaches out to the girl, the main character grabs him. He apologizes, but wonders if he could take his hands off her. William says that's an overreaction, and asks why he needs to take his hands off her, but the protagonist insists that he should be the one asking questions and asks why he's suddenly so interested in his daughter. His interlocutor claims that he is sure that the recent incidents are connected and that a powerful magician is involved in them, so it is possible that the girl is that very magician. Lee Seo-jun argues that this is absurd as how could one person cause such a massive release of mana? William claims that the Tower Master has already pulled this off. Lee Seo-jun wonders if they think their 5-year-old daughter is on the same level as him. His interlocutor insists that if there was a mistake, he will offer a sincere apology and leave their house immediately. In accordance with the Hunters Association's rules, he asks for their cooperation and for them to step aside. Yeonhee argues that Sola isn't a hunter and therefore has no obligation to cooperate, while the man asserts that, as her legal guardians, they won't allow him to neglect their daughter's rights. William insists he's returning to the UK tomorrow, so he doesn't have time for official procedures. He immediately connects the two with mana and insists there's no need to worry, as he'll just quickly check something. The man then touches the baby and feels a massive amount of mana, like an entire ocean. He immediately pulls his hand away and falls to the floor. Lee Seo-jun realizes the bonds have loosened, after which the Mak rises from his seat and begins using sinister magic to harm the baby. The protagonist immediately screams and curses him, but William turns to face him. He turns to Mr. Lee and asks why he's protecting this consciousness, since it's not human, it's just a monster. The man screams that it can't exist, and if they leave her alive, this creature will one day destroy the entire world. The guy remembers how in a past life, someone screamed that she was an evil witch who destroyed the world, and because of her, his family plunged into eternal sleep, so he will avenge his parents on this soulless monster. They all wanted to put the witch into eternal sleep and attack her. The boy also recalls the sacred sword's words telling him to stop, because this girl isn't his daughter, just a monster. Now the man claims that it is not up to this magician to decide this, and that he is obliged to raise the girl, so that this time a catastrophe does not happen, because she is not a monster like his daughter. William says that they don't understand him, but when the main character calls him names again, he suggests that they stop resisting. Otherwise, he will plunge their daughter into eternal sleep and let them not raise their voices, because this creature will plunge into eternal sleep if it wakes up. Lee Seo-jun replies that it's okay, and he gives in, but let him not touch Soleil. After which William asks if the guy could hand him the phone that is behind his back. The boy asks what he wants to do, and the man replies that this child contains incredible power, and he is sure that it will help make a huge contribution to magical progress. Lee Seo-jun asks if he is really going to take her to the tower as a magician, to which the man replies that everything is correct, and he promises that she will be treated humanely. The protagonist realizes this man is a damn liar, since in his past life, he simply kidnapped a girl. Meanwhile, William asks for a phone number. Well, his interlocutor claims he forgot about someone focusing on him, and Sola. When the man asks what he's talking about, the protagonist says it's time William asks what he's talking about, and Lee Seo-jun claims that he is not talking to him, after which Yeonhee strikes him with a frying pan using magic. Before William can recover, Lee Seo-jun screams for Yeonhee to grab Sola and run. William is about to hit her with magic, but Lee Seo-jun lunges at him and knocks him down, telling him not to dare. When the girl runs out of the apartment and slams the door, the main character understands that this is good, but at the same moment, the wizard throws him up with the help of magic. But when the guy falls to the floor, he immediately pushes off from it and kicks his enemy, from which his enemy falls. But he immediately rises and begins casting a new spell, crying out that it's pointless. Lee Seo-jun grabs his weapon, and William realizes it's a bit of a bummer, but insists it won't save him, as he only helped him buy time. Lee Seo-jun realizes that he can't get close to him, and his enemy screams that resistance is useless, after which he throws the sofa at his partner, who barely manages to escape. But at that very moment, another spell flies at him. The protagonist realizes the state was a mistake, as drawing his weapon only increased the distance between them, and for a mage, it's crucial to always maintain distance. From a distance, it's much easier for him to aim, and even more time to prepare his spell. He will become a punching bag if he doesn't close the distance and disable his arms. But at that very moment, the wizard begins to lift the table, and the guy screams that he won't get caught twice, after which he throws the teapot into his hand. And when the men's magic dissipates, the main character understands that it's all over. But when he is about to see this guy off, he only claims that there was only one step left to victory. The spear stops a few centimeters from the wizard, and the boy realizes he's chained. William says he never thought someone like Lee Seo-jun would make the same mistake twice, but he's forced to admit Mr. Lee is an extraordinary fighter, and it seems that it is not safe for him to leave him alive, after which the man begins to strangle the guy, and he realizes that he cannot breathe, and without a weapon, he is helpless. If Kang Dae-ho were in his place, he would have been able to defeat this magician with his bare hands, and he was there and he had such power. But then the guy realizes that he does have it, and more accurately, a way to get it. After which, a message pops up for him, saying that he needs to choose the number of souls to absorb, and the guy understands that the side effect makes him uneasy. But now he claims that he wants to use all the souls, after which a temporary increase in all statistics occurs. The young man immediately frees himself from the shackles, but the wizard, shocked, asks how he did it. The man immediately tries to cast a new spell, but the protagonist doesn't give him time, raising his fist and screaming, "Did he really think he'd give in so easily?" After which, the wizard flies into the wall and then falls completely, and the main character thinks what to do with him now. William has a nightmare about being drowned in the ocean, which he saw when he tested the girl's strength, after which he screams out calling for someone to help, and a little while later, he comes to his senses. Lee Seo-jun. He asks how he is, and wonders if Mr. Evil British has recovered. The man asks where he is and who this guy is. The protagonist wonders if he doesn't remember him, to which the man replies, "No," and his head is pounding. Lee Seo-jun realizes the stone worked perfectly and wonders if he should refresh his memory. 10 hours ago, the young man wondered what to do with this man, and he received a message about it, that his strength is returning to normal, and his mana reserves are also returning to normal, and the king's ring has absorbed a piece of his humanity. The guy realizes he's knocked out the mage, but he already knows about Sola's power and isn't in the mood for negotiations. As soon as word of her reaches, the mage tower, serious people will knock on their door, and then he'll be gone. He'll also lose his daughter again. After which, the guy took out his spear and thought that maybe it was worth just plunging this man into eternal sleep because he was trying to harm his daughter, and if he dealt with him now, and also threw the body somewhere, no one will recognize the dungeon. But then the guy realized that this couldn't be done again. Since when had he become capable of entering into an eternal sleep unarmed? And besides, if such a famous person disappeared, a full-scale investigation would definitely begin, and they would quickly find him. The guy also thought that if he could turn back time, he wouldn't have let everything go so wrong. But at that moment, a brilliant idea occurred to him. Even though it's impossible to turn back the clock, he has an artifact that can erase existing memories, and he can make William Taylor forget everything. The man asks if it means he came to Korea to investigate the rifts and bought an artifact with unknown train characters from Mr. Lee, to which the man replies that it's all true. His interlocutor asks if he went berserk after ingesting it, to which he again replies that it's true. William asks if he had to disarm it, to which the guy replies that's exactly how it happened, and asks if he remembers anything about it, to which he replies that there is none and absolutely nothing. After which the protagonist apologizes. His interlocutor asks what's wrong, to which he replies that it's because of it that he has amnesia. His interlocutor claims there's no need to worry about it, since he tried to persuade him not to take the drug. Using the artifact, despite warnings, was his decision. And it's not his fault. He also needs to apologize. He'll pay for Alexeyev and compensate for the damages, after which he apologizes again. Well, when the man wants to leave, the main character tells him to wait and claims that he thought that, as far as he knows, he received a request from the Hunters Association. He asks if that's really the case, after which the guy replies that yes, and hands over their contact information, and also suggests trying to contact them, because he's sure that they'll help him. And as a bonus, he gives him a snack. The wizard then asks Mr. Lee why he's helping him, since it makes no sense. So his interlocutor asks what he's talking about. After all, how could you not lend a helping hand to someone in need? Then he offers to go with her, because he'll help him catch a taxi, and as the man eats a tasty treat, She wonders if this is truly what Korean kindness is all about. When he finally leaves in a taxi, the protagonist can breathe a sigh of relief. He realizes it's finally over, and thank goodness he didn't throw away the amnesia stone. The quest is now called Absorbing Part of Sol A's Memories. A short time later, the little girl opens her eyes and wonders where she is. She realizes she's been kidnapped and brought to this place. After which, she knocked on the door and screamed if there was anyone there. But at that very moment, two men opened the door, and one of them claimed that the girl had woken up earlier than they expected. So what should they do with her? To which the other replied that they needed to call the development department. The little girl wondered if this was English, and they thought she didn't understand them, after which the lady began to wonder who these people were, and why they brought her there. One of them claimed he couldn't even believe that such a young woman possessed such power, and that her might was capable of eclipsing the Archmage himself. Another claimed he thought that was a slight exaggeration, but she was definitely there for a reason. After all, the girl would certainly be a great asset to magical progress. The girl then recalled how her mother had asked her to promise not to show her power to anyone but her mother, and she had to promise her. The father also said that the girl should hide her abilities, and also promised that she will not use magic. And the little girl understands that it is her fault, because she broke her promise and not only used her power, but spent all her manai. One of the men claimed that they had just received an order, and the other asked what it was, to which he replied that, for now, she needed to be put to sleep, and the other said that it was clear and that everything would be done, after which he used magic to put her to sleep. Another one asked what happened to her parents and whether she had been kidnapped from her home, to which he replied that her mother had already fallen into eternal sleep, and her father apparently did not pose a threat, and what he could do against the Tower of Magicians, and if he complained, they would quickly get rid of him. Afterwards, the little girl wondered if they were talking about her dad, and then remembered her parents wondering if she should really get rid of her dad. The girl immediately burst into laughter. One of the mages claimed that the sleep spell didn't seem to work on her. His interlocutor asks what he's talking about. His strength should have lasted a week, but at that moment, the little girl began to use her magic, after which the two flew away, and the girl ordered one of them to answer where she was. The man asked how she understood their conversation, but at that very moment, someone else screamed at her to stop and go to sleep. The girl turned to the man who was still cutting through and asking why it wasn't working. Someone else screamed that she was a difficult child and therefore needed to be neutralized, after which this person started arguing and claimed that, in that case, he would use something else. The man sent a fireball at the little girl, but when another said that it was too much, the girl only froze the fireball and then dodged it, and also claimed that she would ask again where she was, and if she did not receive an answer, she would blow up the entire building. One of them, looking at the girl, realized she wasn't bluffing and claimed they were in the Mage's Tower in Britain. Sol A asked if they were really in Britain now, to which her interlocutor replied that they were. The girl then asked why they brought her there and why they wanted to get rid of her father. After this, Mac looked away from the girl and began to use her magic to put pressure on him, but at that moment, someone else entered the room and asked what was going on there. The two immediately turned to the chief, who with a smile on his face said that the young lady had already woken up. He also said that there was no need to be afraid of him, as they would not harm her, and that the girl should tell him what she wanted. He also claimed that the lady could speak Korean and he would understand her. She replied that she wanted to go back to her dad, and the man asked if she wanted to return to Korea, and also claimed that he understood and would contact him right away. The man immediately called the Hunters Association and asked if they could connect him to a man named Lee Seo-jun. He then handed the phone to the girl and told her to talk to her daddy. The girl, with the help of her mana, took the phone from his hands, but when she was about to say something to her father, she looked at the phone where a spell was cast, and the phone exploded. The girl couldn't withstand the strain and fell unconscious. William said that thank God she was just a naive child, as he thought the girl posed a threat and needed to be periodically cast a powerful sleep spell on her. One of the men then apologized, but asked if it wasn't dangerous to give to a developing child's body, to which his interlocutor noted that they would be in danger if this creature woke up, after which they said that it was understandable. After this, the little girl thought about her father and wondered where he was, since she was waiting for him. A short time later, the man absorbs part of Sol-A's memories, and the future is successfully altered, followed by acceleration. A little while later, the guy is walking down the street and realizes that it seems like he was shown Sol-A's memories from her life before he returned to the past. But what worries him most is that he didn't just look at them, but swallowed them. But he doesn't understand what this means. After which, he also thinks he misunderstood the last notification about the acceleration. The very fact of his return to the past is already improbable, as events have been taking an increasingly bizarre turn lately. But what's more important is that he managed to prevent one disaster, and four more remain. He doesn't even know what their essence is, but considering at least the events before his return, one can predict the entire next one. My happiness should be immersion in Yoonhee's eternal sleep. Does nothing her life will be tragically cut short again. But if the reason is the same, then there is an opportunity to prepare in advance, and for this, he must become stronger at any cost. Now he goes into Hyeram's office and asks why she wanted to meet with him, to which the woman replies that it was a work matter. Her interlocutor claims that she could have simply called, because then he could have stayed at home with Sol-A. The woman claims to understand his frustration and apologizes for wasting his time, then suggests they get straight to the point. She also asks if he'd like to create his own guild, as she's willing to support him. The guy, shocked, asks if she really wants him to create a guild, to which the woman replies that yes, and she can even pay him and hand over control of unprotected dungeons to his taste, or she can choose them herself, because he will even have insurance. The guy understands that then he will be able to receive rewards for the first time clearing his own dungeon, and this is a real jackpot, but he wonders if this is too generous, and asks what the catch is, to which the woman replies that she will join it. Lee Seo-jun. The lady asks what she's talking about, and she replies that at the moment she can't be a full-fledged hunter because her father forbids her to work after that injury during the dungeon clearing. Lee Seo-jun claims that she went with them to the tomb of the Forgotten One, but the woman replies that she ran away, then so she needs a cover guild to join and officially become a hunter. The conditions of acceptance should include a mandatory visit to the dungeon, but the guy asks if her father is not the chairman of High-Tech, and he doesn't really want to quarrel with him. But the girl replies that he has nothing to worry about, because if anything happens, he can simply disband the guild. She'll provide compensation and even hire a specialist to oversee her work, so he won't have to do anything. The young man asks if she really wants him to become a frontman for her guild. She replies that it's certainly true, but she still can't recruit people because her father will immediately find out. So she presents this part to him and asks what he thinks about it. The young man understands that the guild must have at least 5 people, including the leader, and Hyeram, leaving 3 more spots. So the man says, okay, it's worth a try. He also realizes that by a stroke of luck, he has suitable candidates. Later, someone asks if the guild is called Ghost, and if its leader is Lee Seo-jung. The guy replies yes, and his interlocutor confirms that all the paperwork is ready. And now, his guild officially exists. When the young man goes out into the street, he realizes that it was more important than he expected, and he had to spend some money time. But thank God there were no problems with the documents. But when the guy goes further, a car stops in front of him, and the person who got out of it asks if this guy is Lee Seo-jun. Afterwards, he asks to come with them, and the boy wonders if this man is the leader of the Haida, named Ha Jung-soo. When he gets into the car, the company's head confirms that everything is true, and that he heard that the young man created a guild. The young man understands that everything turned out as he expected, after which the guy asserts that everything is correct, and his interlocutor asks if he denies this, to which he replies that there will be no point, because it seems he already knows about everything. Then, the man tells the guy to remove his daughter's name from the list of guild members. But the young man replies that he doesn't think it's possible to, which his interlocutor replies that this request is not easy because he has a better offer than Yi-Ram. The high-tech company itself will sponsor his guild, and the man asks him what he thinks about it. The man asks if they will sponsor him, and the man replies that they will. Frankly, he's fond of the guy because, after all, he's the one who saved his daughter. The young man understands that he cannot believe his ears. And although Hyeram is the gifted daughter of an oligarch, she can never compare with the entire company, and especially with their caviar, because he is sure that they will provide him with conditions 100 times better. The guy realizes he has absolutely no grounds for refusal, and his interlocutor asks what his answer will be. Lee Seo-jun asserts that he sincerely values him, but the new offer is forced to decline, after which he apologizes. The man claims that he does not understand why he so stubbornly supports Yiram. The young man replies that if he had agreed to his proposal, he would undoubtedly have received more benefit than from Ha Yiram. But that is all. Lee Seo-jun understands that for the chairman, he is nothing more than a potential way to control Yiram, and he does not need anything more from him, after which the guy says that on the other hand, by accepting Yiram's offer, he will be able to extract much more benefit from this alliance. He knows that his refusal seems stupid, but at least he has a chance to gain Ha Yiram's trust. In the long run, this is much more beneficial for him. And then the man asks if the guy has ever considered it that by choosing Iram, they can make himself a powerful god. But the young man replies that everything is fine, because Iram promised that she would not allow something like this to happen. And the man says that a similar guy trusts her very much, to which he replies that yes, and he is sure that a lady always keeps her word. Lee Seo-jun. He thinks that knowing success is impossible, she won't even take on the task. And if a girl promises something, she'll keep her word no matter the cost. When he first met this girl, she was exactly like that, after which the man's voice begins to laugh and claims that now he understands why she likes the guy so much, and that he will allow her to be listed in his gel because overprotection will only slow down her development. But the man also says he'll only allow it under one condition. A short time later, the guy is already near Ha Yiram, and the girl voices this condition. If he's going to create a guild, it has to be for real. Lee Seo-jun says that she is lucky because she can be a hunter, as long as she is a member of the guild, to which the girl replied that this is so, but asked if this would not be a problem for him and the other members of the guild, since they did not initially expect the guild to be real. The protagonist tells the girl not to worry as everything suits him, but she replies that he's always busy. The young man replies that for her and their new guild, he's willing to devote a little time, and that he'll definitely convince the others, so they agree in advance. The woman asks what's wrong with him and why he's suddenly become so helpful. He replies that he wants to contact someone and asks if she can help him with it, to which the woman replies that she knew it wasn't that simple. Meanwhile, in Athens, Greece, a fissure appears, and monsters emerge from it. The knights immediately shout to their colleagues to hold their ground and protect the civilians. One of the kids turns to his mother and tells her to watch out, because these are knights from the order, and there are probably a lot of monsters there. But the woman tells the kid not to leave her. However, the boy does not listen to his mother and runs up to the monster, saying that she is real, after which she turns her attention to the boy and attacks him, which shocks the young man. But at that very moment, someone jumps up from their seat and deftly cuts down the monster, leaving the boy barely injured. Someone asks if the other saw it, because she killed all the gargoyles in an instant, and it's her accuracy that makes her the best. Someone else claims it's the pride of Athens. But at that very moment, one of the knights says a rift has appeared nearby, so he's asking everyone to leave the area. The mother turns to her son and asks if he's okay, as she was so scared. But the boy replies that he's fine, and he wasn't the least bit afraid, because the greatest swordswoman, named Sophia Lambidu, protected him. When the woman removes her helmet, everyone immediately cries out with praise and admiration. One of the woman's allies asks if the lady is injured, and she replies that she's perfectly fine, only her armor is a bit heavy. The man then says he received a call from South Korea, and the woman asks if he's talking about the swordsman Saint, to which he replies that no, they were called from a high-tech company. Lee Seo-jun, looking at the call on his phone, wonders if he's gone too far. But pressing the accept button, he realizes it's too late to back out, so he addresses the person on the phone. The woman asks if this guy's name is Lee Seo-jun, after which she introduces herself, and also asks if he wanted to talk to her, to which the guy replies that everything is correct, and Sophia asks if he is calling about joining their guild, to which the guy replies that he will not answer. He already has a guild. He also calls them about the dungeon that they are hiding from everyone, to which the woman replies that she does not quite understand what he is talking about, And the young man replies that he is talking about the dungeon in the Acropolis of Athens. His interlocutor claims she's never heard of such a dungeon, after which the young man asks if it's a learning tower. The young man realizes Sophia has no choice but to accept his offer, after which the woman says that's wonderful, and she's forced to agree, after which she suggests they discuss everything in private. A short while later, the guy is holding tickets and claims he's flying to Greece and asks who wants to go with him. Ha! Yiram screams in shock at what he's doing. The girl also offers to explain everything properly and why Sophia invited them to Greece. The guy asks if they know everything about Sophia Lamdow and her guild, the Knights Order, to which they reply, of course. Some of them claim that Sun Soo Hyun created the Knights inspired by her example, and the main character wonders if they are serious, and now it is clear why the name is so similar. The guy also claims that the Sophia Guild cannot boast of scale, but it has enough influence to be on close terms with the Greek government. This raises the question of why this guild has so many exceptional hunters. Hyun asks, what's so strange about this, since powerful hunters prefer to work with influential guilds? Lee Seo-jun replies that the lady does not understand, because hunters begin to develop at an incredible speed after joining the knightly order, and they do not train until they go gray like the guys from the Koryo Sword House. Someone else asks if it's possible that they drink elixirs by the leader, and the main character replies that hunters can't become stronger, just thanks to elixirs, and the girl asks what the matter is then. The young man replies that the whole thing is about an open dungeon, and the knightly order is hiding a dungeon in Athens in which one interesting feature is hidden. Because when a person finds himself on its territory, he immediately receives experience points. This explains why Sophia's guild is so powerful, and it only takes a few entries and exits to become stronger. This is precisely what Sophia Lambedeau noticed. Ha! Yiram asks if he's really saying they'll become stronger if they enter this dungeon, to which the boys reply, that's right. It's like the time room from that anime. The girl claims it's madness and can't believe he managed to obtain such information. The guy understands that this should have been revealed much later, but now he urgently needs to become stronger, so he has to break the rules. Mother into eternal sleep. Then he will not be able to prevent the disaster just by luck, as happened with William Taylor. He's unlikely to cope alone, and in the worst-case scenario, he'll need all the help he can get. Just because he's strong for a beginner doesn't mean he can compete with the world's strongest. The young man realizes he can't afford to waste time and no longer wants to feel helpless like he did during the battle with Taylor. Afterward, the young man asks if any of them want to go, and immediately everyone agrees. Uni claims that it looks like they'll have to ask his father to look after Sol Hayiram, says on the phone that she'll find some free time so they can prepare everything they need. The girl also asks what the guy wanted to say, because none of them would miss such an opportunity and would only agree to go. A little while later, they find themselves at the Athens airport, Dae-ho. He says that he finally feels the fresh air of Greece. The protagonist asks if he is the same as everywhere else. His interlocutor replies that he doesn't have an answer, but there is a philosophical aura about him. Yuni notices Yun's discomfort and asks what's wrong, to which the girl asks in return. She asks where they can get their luggage, as she feels a little uneasy without her sword. Yuni asks why, and the girl replies that it's a habit left over from the rigors of training. The protagonist realizes it was pure hell. Yuni also says she's curious if the girl has changed guilds. When her interlocutor asks what she's talking about, the girl asks if she wasn't a member of the Goryeo Sword House. After all, her grandfather was a holy sword himself. Dae-ho, shocked, asks if she really is his granddaughter, and the girl replies that yes, but she is not a member of the Goryeo Sword House because her grandfather did not allow her to join the guild. The man argued that if people truly honored the traditions of their ancestors, then she should stand on her own feet, and his patronage would only weaken her. The girl claims that's what he said, and that's why he wanted her to become a lone hunter or find her own guild. The protagonist realizes he expected nothing less from the Holy Ball, and in fact, he only just learned about it now. At this time, Hayiram points to one of the men and suggests looking at him. After all, he looks like a member of the order. Looking at this man, the protagonist realizes that Sophia has sent a celebrity for them. This guy's name is Alexandrite Zorba, Lamdow's right-hand man. He followed Sophia faithfully until the very end, after which the boy asks if they are the Spectre Guild. The protagonist approaches this man and greets him, after which he introduces himself and states that he is the head of the guild. Alexandrite also introduces himself and says they can just call him by his first name. The guy also claims that a car is already waiting for them, so he suggests they discuss everything on the way to the guild. He looks at the main character a little coldly and understands that he doesn't see anything special in him yet, so he doesn't understand why the head invited these newcomers to Greece. As they head to the guild, Eunhee looks out the window and comments on the beautiful buildings there. Alexandrite is synthesized by a beautiful woman, or perhaps the girl replies that it is indeed so. The girl replies that this is definitely true, since he's famous in Korea, thanks to a commercial for a popular drink filmed there. Daeho, not knowing English, asks what they're talking about. Hey Yeon! He replies that they're talking about going to Santorini. But then Eunhee turns to Mr. Alex and asks why the car stopped. Ha! Iram replies that Athens is world famous for its terrible traffic jams, especially in the city center. Daeho, he says it's very stuffy there, but the protagonist insists he now feels at home. Alexei, who was saved from this, only laughs and insists that they're in no hurry and that they can stop for a bite to eat later. After all, he would consider it an honor to dine with such beauties, and the guy is interested in whether there are any single ones among them. Hayaram immediately replies that she is married to her job, and he young. She replies that she too is married to her sword. Then the guy asks, what about Miss Yu? The girl is a little embarrassed by these questions and doesn't even know what to say, then looks at the protagonist. But at that moment, Young joins the conversation. He also wonders why they don't go on a trip to Greece after they're done with the bodies. Many people choose their country as a honeymoon destination, and the girl, shocked, asks him what he's talking about. Lee Seo-jun realizes it would be great to take Seol-ah with him next time. He's curious about her. Meanwhile, the girl is heading out with her grandfather, and he, seeing the little girl's expression, asks if the ice cream is bad. The little girl replies that no, and it is very tasty, and the man understands that Sol-ae is not in the mood today, but sometimes he forgets that the girl is still a child, so it is not surprising that she is sad without her parents. The man leans toward the girl and asks if she's sad, because she misses her mommy and daddy. But the girl immediately replies that it's not like that, because she loves her grandpa very much too. At that moment, they notice a kitten, and the man claims he sees that cat there quite often. Sol-ae asks her grandfather if she can pet the cat, to which the man replies, of course, but she must wash her hands afterward. While the little girl is petting the cat, the man realizes he needs to go get some wet wipes. The cat cuddles Sola's hand, and the girl says she's so cute. The man says he'll go to the store for a bit and asks the girl not to go to, which she agrees. Sol-ae notices the cat wagging her tail and reaches out her hand toward him. But at that very moment, the cat tells the girl not to touch her tail, as it's very sensitive. At this point, the protagonist stands in front of the guild building. When they go inside, everyone marvels, saying it's the true residence of the heroine of nations. Someone else asks if it's literally a palace, because the building of Greece's greatest guild is simply something else. Alexandrite claims they've prepared rooms for them, so let the guests feel at home. He also turns to Lee Seo-jun and asks him to come with him as the leader wants to see him. The guy also claims that he wants to warn Lee Seo-jun in advance and that he should not allow himself even the slightest insolence towards the head. The guy replies that of course his interlocutor says that he hopes he took his words seriously, after which Alexandrite knocks on the headman's door and says that it's him. The woman replies that the door is unlocked, so let him in. When the two enter the room, the guild leader welcomes Mr. Lee Seo-jun to their guild. The protagonist immediately bows and declares it a great honor to be invited personally by Lady Lambadou. The woman replies that she understands and asks if Alexandrite can find them a spare room. A little while later, they are already sitting at the table and the woman sighs. But at that very moment, she raises her gaze to the main character, which frightens him, and he understands that the slightest mistake, and he could say goodbye to life. The guy claims that he will get straight to the point, after which he claims that he knows how to put the boss of the training tower into eternal sleep. But before he can finish, a sword appears at his throat. The woman coldly asks how he intends to do this. The protagonist understands that they are negotiating, so he shouldn't be afraid of her, and he asks if it would be interesting if he spilled the beans right away. Sophia replies that it seems the young man does not particularly value his life, to which he replies that he values the ocean and wonders if the lady is really going to lose the only source of information by plunging him into eternal sleep. The woman immediately lowers her weapon and asks if she can ask him something. She then asks how the guy knew about her curse, to which he replies that he's already seen someone with exactly the same problem. Sophia asks if he's fallen into eternal sleep, to which he replies that he most likely has only two ways to free her from the spell: either force the one who cursed her to break the spell, or force him into eternal sleep. The woman replies that in her case, only the second option is possible, after which she asks to allow her to say one important thing, because even if he knows how to put the boss into eternal sleep, well, he still won't succeed. And the guy asks why. His interlocutor replies that it's simple. His abilities aren't enough. Hunters in the tower can indeed become stronger quickly, but that largely depends on luck. Even if he's fortunate enough to develop quickly, he's still an inexperienced newcomer, so it's not enough. Typically, knightly order hunters train for several years before entering the tower, but the boy replies that he doesn't understand that. After all, his training has nothing to do with this matter. And the woman then asks who would even allow a child onto the battlefield. The young man replies that he's not a child, but his interlocutor insists that, to her, he's just a self-confident boy who just recently received his license. Lee Seo-jun insists that her concern for him and his excessive appearance are nothing more than a deal for both of them. Sophia suggests that if he insists, how about a trial duel? Lee Seo-jung asks if she's talking about a trial run, or if she's just saying that's exactly it, since he might fight one of her guild members. She needs to make sure he has a chance of surviving the tower drop. After which, the protagonist replies that this is excellent, and he agrees. A short time later, the Alexandrian stands before him and asks the leader if she really wants him to fight this. The woman replies yes, after which the guy claims he'll try to restrain himself, but makes no promises. The protagonist wonders if they don't care about him. The boss insists it's all fine. After all, the guy insists on fighting the tower boss. Then Alexandrite insists they begin on her signal. The boy realizes that his father's son is taking on too much. Does he really think a greenhorn like him can handle the tower's invincible boss? He even managed to secure a personal meeting with the guild leader, so he doesn't like it, and wants the guy to finally understand that life is cruel after the duel. The guild leader then begins the duel. Alexandrite realizes he'll have the advantage against the spear in close combat, so he needs to close the distance. However, just as he's about to close in, the protagonist strikes first. The brunette dodges him, but at the same moment, the main character moves his spear to the side, hitting the man in the leg, causing him to lose his balance but not fall. The brunette realizes that this guy easily keeps him at bay, and if his spear were metal, he would definitely lose his balance. Alexandrite also realizes that this young man is just a beginner, so he doesn't know where he got his skills from. Lee Seo-jun, with a smile on his face, claims that he tried to hold back, after which his opponent decides to be more serious and understands that he is no longer going to stand on ceremony with this idiot. However, when he attacks the protagonist, he only lets go of his spear. Alexandrite is confused, wondering if the boy really let go of his weapon at that moment. But at that very moment, the main character grabs him by the shirt and knocks him down with his foot, after which everyone twists his arm, putting the enemy on the floor. Sophia realizes she knew this guy wasn't as simple as he seemed, but it's just weird. He asks if this is enough to convince her to, which she replies more than enough, after which she even apologizes, because it seems she was wrong to underestimate his abilities. Lee Seo-jun replies that yes, but she shouldn't take it to heart, after which the woman replies that he is really very strong, and perhaps he really can defeat the tower boss, so she allows him to enter the training tower. The next morning, everyone is already gathered near the guild, and Ha Yi-ram, looking around, asks why there are so many people there. Who else goes there besides them? Lee Seo-jun points out that the training tower is different from other dungeons, as only 12 people are allowed to enter it each month. The girl asks why this is, but at that very moment, Alexandrite throws some things at the protagonist and claims that these are supplies that are given to those entering the dungeon, so let him take them. Something really happened between him and the Alexandrite. Because why does he treat him so rudely? But the guy replies that he doesn't even know. He? Young turns to Alexandra and asks, "Where is what they call the Learning Tower?" After which the guy replies that the tower is right in front of them. This is the upper city of Athens, called the Acropolis. A short time later, they're already heading around the location, looking at the landmarks trying to remember their names. The Alexandrian asks if they really came there on an excursion, and the protagonist replies that they are trying to distract themselves from their worries. The brunette says what an impudent idiot the guy is, and Lee Seo-jun understands that the outcome of their fight has apparently seriously hurt his pride. After which, they approach the entrance to the dungeon, and the guy asks if this is really a staircase, to which the man replies that the entrance is below. When they head towards the bypass, the guy realizes that the steps lead straight underground. So what kind of tower is this? When they reach a dead end, Ha-yi-ram asks Mr. Alexandrite if he is sure that they are going in the right direction, because there is a wall there. The man replies that this is the entrance, because now the tower will call them, and the lady asks, what does it mean to call? After which, her interlocutor replies that she needs to get ready, because the entrance is about to open. The girl whispers to Lee Seo-jun if this guy has gone crazy, but her interlocutor replies that he doesn't think so, because this is a special dungeon, so the entrance must be special. After which, exactly 6 o'clock in the morning arrives, and everyone receives a message that the entrance to the dungeon called the Training Tower is open, and 12 hunters closest to the entrance are selected on board. Everyone is shocked and asks what's going on. Alexandrite tells them not to panic, as they're entering a dungeon. Afterward, they receive a message stating that recruitment is complete, and the selected hunters have been granted alpha tester status. The number of hunters, on the contrary, became fewer and fewer every day, and only when people who could hold back the onslaught of monsters began to run out. A voice suddenly came from the heights of heaven, and its source turned out to be the personal system. Thanks to her, everything changed, because the personal system summoned classes and gave monster hunters suitable skills, and for true masters of their craft, who had perfectly mastered all the intricacies of combat for their class, it gave even more power. And the higher the class rarity, the greater this power. But not in the protagonist's case. He's now receiving a message about an update to the personal system of an alpha tester named Lee Seo-jung. Afterward, the volume returns an error message as the system has already been updated and the update is paused. Then an alternative is searched for, and the deleted data is downloaded, after which the download is complete and the personal system is updated. The guy immediately opens his eyes, after which he receives a message that he has come to an unprotected dungeon and is now on the first floor of the training tower called the dungeon. When the young man gets up from the bed and the walls, he wonders if this is a system error, but this has never happened before because the system never fails. The guy looks around and thinks if this could be a castle, after which he realizes that his affairs are bad because it looks like he has ended up in the most difficult place in the tower. The tower has 12 dungeon map templates at any one time, and they are constantly replacing each other randomly. The tower teleports each of the 12 participants of the passage to a random location, and they all must reach the second floor, relying only on their own strength. The boy also receives a message informing him that a training quest has been created and that he needs to open his personal system. When he does so, he realizes it's a bit challenging for beginners, but definitely doable since the system has already assigned them a class and skills. When the young man looks at his characteristics, he understands that his class is exactly the same as before, returning to the past, because now he is a spearman. The young man understands that the spearman is a normal class, which is clear from the name, but he hoped that the butterfly effect would work in this case too. Classes are assigned to guide a person on the right path and also mark the limits of their growth. It's common for a normal class to stop growing at some point, and this is the reason they were such a lousy hunter in their past life. And if nothing really has changed, then others should also have received the same classes as before. So the guy understands that this is a problem. Before he returned to the past, Sol Ah belonged to a class called a witch, and her eye must have greatly influenced how her life turned out, so he should try to change her class. That's why he came to the training tower, because the reward for clearing it is a class change card, and it can only be obtained and used once, so he cannot afford to miss this chance. because he wants his daughter to grow up to be a normal girl, not a witch. Then he receives a message saying the training quest has been updated and he needs to escape the underground dungeon. The young man looks at the door at the end of the corridor and realizes that it is locked, so it seems that in order to escape from there, he first needs to find the key. He also looks at the armor and thinks that it looks like there is no one inside, but since they are sitting next to the cameras, it means they are guards. After which, the guy realizes that the guards must have keys with them, and they often lie in a bag. But as soon as he reaches out to him, the monster wakes up, and the main character asks if he really thought that he would fall for it. After which, he completely stabs this guard, and also claims that he assumed that something like this would happen. Unfortunately for them, he is too old to fall for such a tired trap. He then cuts down the monster, but others appear to take its place, and the young man wonders if the monsters are really mid-level, appearing almost from the doorway. The young man asserts that he can definitely handle a couple of them, and then suggests they attack. Well, the monsters, instead of going at him, just throw weapons, and the young man immediately apologizes and claims that he underestimated the guys. A little while later, he reaches the last monster, and realizes there were a few more than he expected. He also wonders if 15 monsters are too many. At that moment, he receives a message stating he's earned 150 points. The young man realizes that despite the number, it wasn't particularly difficult, and now the spear fits in his hand like a glove. He also receives messages that the king's ring has absorbed the souls of the monsters. Lee Seo-jun opens the door and realizes that he hasn't used the ring in a long time, so he has a supply of souls just in case. However, as soon as he enters the room, he sees another monster and wonders if it's the boss. Unlike the other guards, his weak points are covered by armor, and he even has a shield so he can defend himself. The guy also notices a pouch on his belt and hopes they don't tell him he has to defeat it to get out. But at that very moment, the monster advances on him, shield in hand. The young man shocked wonders why this colossus is so fast and barely manages to jump aside. He realizes he can't hold his own against it in open combat and needs to increase the distance between them for now, then think of a plan. But at that very moment, the monster declares that the criminals must go to jail and strikes again. The protagonist watches as it destroys the columns and wonders if the ceiling should collapse when they're all destroyed. Lee Seo-jung also understands that he must change the trajectory of this bull's movement, and the monster still claims that the fugitives will be executed, after which he strikes again. But when he does this, the young man notices the monster's weak point, where they are from the armor, and understands that this is his chance. Then he strikes the crook of the leg. The guy realizes he's hit the bull's eye, and that all this monster's strength lies in its legs, and he's crippled it so much that it won't be as agile. But when the monster rises to its feet and swings its shield, the guy wonders what it's trying to do, after which he launches his shield at the protagonist, and the young man wonders if he's really using his shield as a boomerang. Lee Seo-jun can't believe he managed to recover from his injured leg so quickly, but the ceiling really will collapse if the column collapses. He'll have to stop the shield somehow. The guy also looks at his personal system, wondering if there's anything there, but he notices a class skill called Thrust, and realizes it slightly increases the strength of the thrust and spear at the expense of its owner's mana. But this skill is ordinary, just like his class. Now he starts swinging his spear and realizes he has no choice but to hope it works, after which he activates the skill. He receives a message stating that the skill has been activated, and the young man pierces monsters with his spear along with his shield. The system reports that he has defeated the floor boss, the Senior Guardian, and earned 500 points. He also receives notifications that the King's Ring has absorbed the soul of a defeated enemy, after which the guy falls unconscious.